Good.
Okay, I believe budgetary is a lot simpler than the classic system. I really don't think anybody's gonna have any issues. I don't. It's pretty simple. Like Melissa and Adam said yesterday, we have been through this many times with the waves already, and we expect a lot of questions. So, ask away when you're back in your offices, because we know you're gonna have questions and we're ready. So don't say, oh my gosh, I have to email them again, because obviously, once you get it down, it's simple. It's just that adjustment time. And I have a blue folder I passed out to everybody. We're gonna go through some of those handouts in there as we go through the training, and I'll pull them out and bring them to your attention. But there's some checklists and stuff in there too to help you. We're gonna go through the menu. It's gonna be like a combination today. I'm gonna do a little bit. JD's gonna do a little bit, and Melissa is gonna go and post the actual payroll on the budgetary side for OME-RESA, so you guys can see actual step-by-step how you do that. Basically, it's set up pretty much the same way as the payroll. There's all these different tabs. There's the help over here, where if you want to get to the documentation, you can go right here. You don't have to click out of the instance to go to any kind of documentation to look anything up. So it appears right there for you. So very similar there. Start with the home tab. And I'll kind of follow along in the book a little bit. I'll tell you what page I'm on. But page 2 is just going to show you all the menus and what's underneath them. And I know somebody over here said that would be the one thing that was a little, till you had to get used to what's under what tab. So that's going to be like your struggle at first. You know what you want to do, but you're just not quite sure where to go under what tab. But the home tab basically is a place where your reports will appear. You can click this button right here and it will show all the reports that are available instead of going under the report tab itself, okay? But a nice little feature of that, if you click back here, you can save reports that are your favorites, ones that you're going to use all the time. And when you save them as your favorites, they'll appear on the screen. So you don't have to scroll down the big long list of reports. And Jerry's going to go over that a little bit more on the report tab, how you save them. So they'll appear right here. So if it's something you run every day or every week or whatever, boom, it's right there for you. And that's all the home tab is either your favorites or all.
Is that all that you run or all that are available to you?
All that are available to you, yes. I did want to bring to your attention, there is one tab, and it's not here on the, oh yes it is, accounts receivable. This tab right here, did we turn that module on for everybody when we set them up?
Which one?
The accounts receivable.
I did if I saw they had those privileges.
I don't know how many of you use the AR module in the classic system. Our secretary uses it a lot because she does bills out to the districts for services. But I don't know how much you guys do billing and if you use the classic system that had that. But it is now built into the redesign. We can turn that module off so you don't even see this tab at all if you don't plan on using it for billings. If you want to play with it and see what it's all about, we can leave that tab turned on for you. As of right now, I only know one district in the OME-RESA service area that uses this module. So I'm really not going to go in depth in it on the book today, but if anybody would like to try it, we can work with you individually if you do a lot of billings and you want to use it. Okay? So if you go, I'm just going to go to one of these right here just to kind of give you an idea of the grid. And I'm actually on page 5 if you want to follow along. This grid looks really similar to the payroll grid. You can move things around, drag and drop to suit your needs. There's a more button here. So if you want to add something to the grid or take something off the grid that you don't use, this is where you go and check or uncheck the boxes.
And keep in mind, if you change something on your grid, you are changing it for yourself, not for anybody else in your district.
Yeah, this is tailored specifically for you to look at. okay? So you can add whatever you would like, take off whatever you wouldn't like to make the grid more efficient for you. Again, you can drop and drag columns so that you can see what you need closer to the front of the grid when your eye's going down on the left-hand side. This was mentioned yesterday, but I'm going to mention it again because there's no button. So a lot of people forget this, but if you want to sort by ascending or descending, you need to click up here next to the name, and it should sort for you. Let's do year. There we go. But there's no button there. So it's kind of hard to remember that you have to click it there even though there's nothing there. But that will sort for you. So if you want to see the most current, click in that box, and it will change the sort order for you. If I go into the More button to add something, I'm just going to give you an example. Let's see here. Where's the 1099? You know what, let's do this. Go here so that I can show you this a little bit better. I'm going to go to purchase orders, and I'm going to add 1099 type to the grid. You'll check mark the box. When you hit off of there, your screen will refresh, and then your 1099 type appears on the grid, okay?
So there's no OK or save button. You have to click the X to get out of it, and it'll then add it to the grid.
And I just drug it over a little closer to this way so that we could see it a little bit more in the center of the page, okay? And then you can sort by that. So let's say you want to see all non-1099s. If you start typing non-1099, screen refreshes, and all the non-1099s appear on your screen. If you want to remove that certain search, there's an X button. And then your screen refreshes back. Another example would be if you wanted a specific vendor number. You knew the vendor number, you would type in equals 42. Then all the transactions for your purchase orders for that vendor will appear. Now notice if I remove the equals and just say 42, go like that and do my sort, 42 will come to the top, but all the others will appear at the bottom. So if you just want to see vendor number 42 and get all the other stuff off your screen, nice, neat, and clean, use that equals in front.
As Adam said yesterday, if you do a number like that, it'll show you 42 and then anything above it. Little things like that will take you a while to get used to, but once you do, you'll get it.
And another little trick, and again, number 1 on your handout should be a purple sheet. There's the little tips and stuff that you can use, okay? So I just printed that out for you for your reference. You will get used to them, but I just printed out one so you had it quick, you could grab it if you needed to do something. I'll show you one more little tip. It's on the the 1099 type, if I do greater than $599.99, so you want to check for, oh, wrong column. Total paid. Greater than $599.99 for all those who should get a 1099. You can do the greater than or equal to. Just trying to show you a few different ways to sort.
Show them how to do a range.
And then see, there, it's 600 on up. Not yet. If you look on page 5 at the bottom here, that's where I'm looking to kind of give you some ideas of what the sorts are. So you can do a range, like Adam said. If that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th one down, it would be a dollar amount. Dot, dot, and then
So if you put 1,000 ... 5,000, it'll find anything within that range.
So I just wanted to give you how some of the sorting is done with the grids. And that works pretty much the same for payroll too. All these little tips work the same on the payroll. Okay.
Percentage signs at the bottom of 5, the first filter, those are kind of like the asterisk was in Classic. That's the wild card. So if you put a percentage, like it says Jeffersonville percentage, it'll find anything with that in the name.
You know, in Classic, the wild card was an asterisk. It's percentage here in Redesign. Now, you see how I sorted this to be greater than or equal to $599.99? Report. On these grids, there's a report button. So if you wanted a report of this, so you could print out to check your vendors, all you have to do is hit your report button. Okay? Then it's going to give you your options. What do you want that report to be produced as? Excel, PDF, letter, or legal, portrait, landscape. Then if you generate the report, everything that's on your grid will appear on the report.
You can do that in basically any grid in the Redesign, payroll or budgetary. Anything on the grid in front of you can be printed as a report.
So my suggestion, until you guys get a little bit more used to the reports, if you can get your grid to look like what you want your report to be, that's the easiest way. Sort, and then hit that report button. Just till you get the feel for running reports and tailoring your reports. That's the way I do it a lot of times, just quick, easy. But that report button will be on all grids. So if you get your grid to look the way you want, report button, and you have your report. On page 7 is just a little comparison that the SSDT put out of some of the things that are in Classic and what their counterpart is in the Redesign. And I just added that to the book just to help you determine what tab you need to go to under what. Now we're going to go under Core. And we're going to start on page 8. And it's going to be Accounts. We'll go to that one first. So the account screen has your cash, appropriations, expenditure, and revenue codes. Okay, your fund is that's where you set your certificate reporting levels for your appropriation resolutions for your county auditor. So let me just go into one and show you real quick. You really aren't going to mess with this too much once your reports to your county auditors look the way you want them to. But see here, you would go include in the resolution. How do you want that to be appear on the report? Just fund special cost center. What levels do you want it to appear? And this tab, this fund tab, when you create your cash account, the fund will be created for you. There's no create here. Okay? When you create your cash, if you have a new cash item, fund will automatically be created, and you can go over to the fund side and tailor it for your report for your county auditors. So then if you go to cash, this is where you would create if you have a new cash, or you can eyeball it, edit it, delete it. If there's any transactions, you're not going to be able to delete it, obviously. So let's just go under the edit button here so you can see. And all of these tabs are going to look like that. There's usually going to be an eyeball, an edit, a delete. So here's an example of your cash. And again, different options you can choose. Active. If you're going to use an expenditure code, the cash account has to be active and the expenditure code has to be active. You have to have that box check marked. If you don't have both check marked and you try to use that expenditure, it won't allow you. 2 places you need that to be active. And once this is set up, you're really not going to have to go back to it unless you have a grant and you don't want someone to use that grant anymore, then you would go back and uncheck the active.
You can't put start and stop dates.
Yes.
You know, if you know a date range.
Start and stop, yep. I'm gonna show you, and again, all these screens are gonna look basically the same. Then here's all your appropriations. Again, the same buttons here. You can sort if you, like we showed you, start typing in your code. I am gonna show you on the expenditure one. See the more buttons, so you can add more items. You can do a report like we talked about just a few minutes ago. If I go to the expenditure, on the expenditure and the revenues, do you know adds deduct in Classic? When you wanted to change your account, you went your adds deduct in the Classic system. In the redesign, you go to your account code, you hit the eyeball, and once you hit the eyeball, budgeting adjustments. Then you hit create, and you're going to say, is this an adjustment or an initial? I would say adjustment, how much you want to add or decrease that line by, and your description. So that's your adds deduct. Okay, and that's clicking the eyeball under the expenditure tab or the revenue tab. Yep, let me do that one more time for you. Click the eyeball, budgeting adjustments. And then you're going to create a budget adjustment. Okay? So again, most of the time you're not going to be in here playing with it unless you have to do something with your cash account, your expenditure account, your revenue account. The next tab is bank accounts, and I'm on page 9. And I'm sure through your printing software, you have your bank accounts to print on your checks. So you just want to make sure that everybody's good with redesign and how everything prints out with the new software now. But here's where you would go if you needed to add a bank account, a new bank account. When yours pull over, you might want to just go in tomorrow and take a peek at this. And we don't have it in here because this is a training account, but verify that your account number's in there and what your bank name is. Now, I have known people to have like 2 bank accounts in Budgetary. One prints out their main Budgetary checks, and one prints out like their officials for football and softball, baseball, all that, for athletics. So you want to have your main account checkmarked for default, okay? So if you would have 2 bank accounts and you would want to go then run a check run for the athletics, it's going to give you a choice when you go to print your checks. Do you want your default bank account, or do you want, and you would name the other one athletics? So just to go in and take a peek tomorrow at your bank accounts, make sure that all looks okay. Okay, moving on to delivery addresses. This is where your school's delivery addresses are. If you're going to do a purchase order and you want those items delivered to the high school, this is where the list of your schools will appear. Now, when they come over from Classic, they're all going to come over as inactive. And let me explain to you what happens. If you allow many people to go in and add schools in when they were creating requisitions for purchase orders, and one of them typed in, our address is 2230 Sunset Boulevard, Suite B. If I typed it in and I put a period after Boulevard, and then Jerry went in and he typed it, created it too, and didn't put the period after Boulevard, both those addresses are going to appear here. So you may have 5 addresses for the high school. Pull over here when you look at this tomorrow. So I would suggest going down the list, picking the one for the high school that you want to use mainly, and making that one active, leaving all the rest of them inactive, so that only those addresses that you have active will appear when someone does a requisition or a purchase. Okay, so after that one is OPUs. OPU is your OPU edit. Again, you should not have to be in here too often unless you have to change the OPU of one of your, buildings. When they come over, they should come over fine, but this is where you mark your central office, the code, the IRN. But that should all pull over correctly for you. Organization is just going to be your organization's name, Jefferson County Educational Service Center, Newcomers Town, wherever. It's going to have your address, and it's going to have your federal ID, your state ID, all of that. That should pull over fine for you too. Again, you should probably never have to go in here unless something would change with your address. So on page 11 is posting periods. And Melissa and Adam talked about those yesterday. You have current and open posting periods. If you have your period current, this green line will appear. Just an easy way to make sure, see which one's current. Also, you will also always know which one is current by this right here in the corner. This is in the corner of no matter what screen you go to. Current is like when you're in the month actually working. Open would be, for example, we're in August. I would open September so you can do future POs. If you don't have it open, then nobody has access to do something in the future. Current's the month you're actually in. If you run a report, it's going to be for that current month. That's what you want to post to. But if you have something open, you can post to it like a future PO. You can also open a month that you closed, which once I close them, I really don't like to open them. Once I balance for the month, I close my posting period unless it's a situation that can't be helped. I don't like going back in and opening it back up. Some people leave them all open. The only bad thing about that is when you close a posting period, that's when all your reports, like your CD reports, run. So if you never close them and you just keep them open in case you have to go back and do something, those reports never run for you. So again, I close them. You'll get into the feel of what you want to do. Also, I feel there's less chance of a mistake, posting something with a date wrong. Yes.
Today, when you close them, you know, you open it and make an adjustment, and close it again.
You will have two sets of reports. You'll have the main report when you closed that month. Then, when you opened it, whatever adjustment you made and closed it again, it will give you a second set to show you what the difference is between.
Yeah, it doesn't overwrite what's there, it gives you another set.
Right. Which I kind of like, because then if an auditor happens to be looking at paper reports and says, well, why is this here like this and this, you can say, well, I have two posting periods, I went back in and made this adjustment. And I believe they showed you how to open and close posting periods, but I'm going to just give you another brief overview of it again. So all you have to do is click the Create button if we wanted to make August open. And again, it's the calendar year, not the fiscal year. If you wanted to make it current, you check this box right here. If you just want to open it for future POs, you don't check the box and you hit Create. And there's August. And it will tell you, yes, it's open, but it is not current. So if I wanted to make it current, if you just hover over this right here, it'll show you Make Current. You click that box, and now it is. And see the green line moved up to August. If you want to close July, hover over the little folder right there. It says Close. You click it. It's closing July and running those reports for me.
And those reports take roughly 15 to 20.
This one should, no, I didn't think that would. Yeah, and are they running in the background, Adam, even
Yes.
though that's still spinning on the
Right.
screen like that?
Right. so it kicks off a bundle, it starts to, they load in the archive one at a time as they complete.
So if you go to the archives to see these reports, and they're not all there yet, they're still probably loading, so give them a little bit of time.
So is that the same as doing a dust?
Yes, if you wanted to compare it to Classic, yes, this would be the same as doing your monthly CD and adjust.
And the reports that it's creating, could you print those if you wanted to? Or they-
Sure.
You can
And-
go to the archive and
Yep.
then print them.
Absolutely. They're there just like in the CD site, but you don't have to leave the screen. You know how you had to go log into another place to get your CD reports? Not here. It's all right here. Yep.
Mary,
Yes.
so, once you close and that little thing rolling around, you're waiting for.
Yes. They had to tweak that. That at one time was an issue, and they had to do some tweaking on that. But yes, that's why I said if you go right over to the archives to look for them, they may not all be there, or they may just start to be populating. So you might have to give it a few more minutes and go back and check them.
I just want to clarify, so it's, August first, or July first, August first. And we are balancing. Normally, nobody can
Do anything.
do anything, okay? We have August open, secretaries can continue to process, that's not gonna affect what we're doing in July.
Nope, it will not.
Okay.
Stuff like
Yep,
that, yeah.
nope, not at all.
As long as they don't accidentally, if they're, does that mean?
Well, if they're,
They're in August, we are still closing July.
So they wouldn't be able to see July on their end.
Right.
no, they would be, if they go to create a requisition, it should come up with the current date, which
Right.
would be August.
Okay.
So, yes,
So unless they physically change that date
Right.
back to the previous month.
yes.
And it really doesn't affect your balancing anyway, because it doesn't encumber anything, it's only a rough.
Yeah,
Encumbrance.
but-
Well, we've had instances, for example, we use FCU. We're on August, you know, we're on the first of the month, trying to balance, and we forget, and we go in and put the send to USAC to submit PO.
Oh, okay.
And that would kick it into a few. I can pull those out, but in this case,
It's divided by date. It won't affect,
it won't kick it in.
it won't affect your totals for the previous. If it's posted for, say if you're closing out July.
Like
The redesign knows that belongs,
With that
Based
August
on
date,
August.
it will go to August.
so it won't affect your July numbers.
Similar to QPO, with the exception is you don't have a batch, as opposed to batch of
Yeah.
future POs. And to put it based on the.
So that should be a little less room for error with it like that, I would think, as long as the people in your building are dating it the right month. It should not affect you at all. Yeah, they can keep working. Now, like we talked about, you can go back and open a month that is closed. Right here is the button to do that. And now that month is back open if you would have to go back in for some reason. And then you do whatever you need to do, you click the little folder and it closes it again. Okay. We're on, page 12, and that's projects. Did anyone use project to date in the classic system when you had a construction project going on? No one used project to date? Okay, that was a feature in the classic system, and so far, all of the districts we have trained, nobody's used it. But there is a feature here, if you want to track your projects, if you have a construction project going on, the ability is there to use this within the system. You would hit create, you would put the project name, whatever, if you're having a new building or whatever the case may be, put in your beginning balance, then it's going to track all of your totals for you for that project, so you can look at it at a quick glance. And like I said, there was something in Classic, but I don't think it was as quick and easy as this, so everybody kind of just brushed past it. On page 13, vendors. There is no more, memo vendors. They're called electronic. So you either have a vendor that gets a check, or you have a vendor that's just electronic, meaning either, movement of money within the district, or if you wire transfer money to a CV, or SCRS, STRS, whatever the case may be. Take a peek at one of these vendors. And you see right here, the default payment type. That will tell you if they're getting an actual paper check or if it's going to be electronic. Active, so if you have any vendors you need to shut off, here's all of your totals. There is even a few places here if you want to track if you've sent them a W-9, you can put in the date, and if you've received it back, the date. Here is where you're going to put in if it's a social security number or an EIN and what that number is and what's their 1099 type. One thing I like that they did with this system is, you know, when you, in the classic system, if you had a PO address and a check address that were different, and then you had a third address to send out the 1099s, you had to go in on the classic system on the PO and add that extra line in so that the 1099 would go to a third address. All you do is scroll down here. You can put as many addresses in here as you want, and then you mark over here what it's for. So you would just simply hit the plus. You could name it whatever you wanted. They just have primary in here. You could name this purchase orders, checks, W-2s, whatever. Put in the address. Make sure that this one had just POs, and then mark that one for those, and save it. I thought that was nice, a nice feature.
So if we have a in the classic,
Yes.
you know, starting with, and all of our information is transferred, going to push that to.
Yes, and you don't need to use 9s anymore. 9s are gone. It's all based on what you have there as check or electronic. You don't have, if you want to continue because you have them numbered that way and you want to keep that pattern, that's fine. Melissa, I think, does that.
I'm sorry.
You don't have to use the 9s for the electronic vendors anymore.
No.
But
I do some anal.
she does it because that's what she's always done, that's what she knows.
I did budgetary for over 18 years.
So, I mean, that's fine if you want to keep it that way, but you don't have to any longer.
Or you can just split the system.
Right. It auto-assigns vendor numbers, it auto-assigns requisitions, purchase orders, checks, if you want. If you don't want, that's fine too. You wouldn't if you do auto, if you just let it auto. Yep. And again, the sort options are all the same here. If you're looking for a vendor, you don't know the name, you want to see how many vendors you have active, and maybe you can go through your active list and make some of them inactive. So, you know, you just type active here. All true. Yeah, it helps if I look at what the actual word is I'm supposed to type, okay? You would type in true, then it gives you all your active vendors, hit report, print the report, go down and say, oh, I haven't used this in 5 years, it's gonna, you know?
If you have multiple vendors with the same name, like somebody typed in Staples Advantage, someone else typed Staples ADV.
Right. If you just type in Staples in the primary name, it'll show you all of them with Staples in it.
And then you can make whoever inactive and just make everybody use one. All right. Under the transaction tab, activity ledger query, page 14. Did anyone use USASDW in Classic or EIEIO?
All the time.
My girl,
All the time.
She hates EIEIO.
Oh, I love it.
And I will not give it up.
You use Don't use it.
I don't use ACE
Where do you invoice? I mean,
in the web.
The web.
What? You go to the web to invoice, and you can't use, you have to use EIEIO?
I love it. Anyway.
I go into EIO.
If you send a ticket and you're on the classic system and I have to look up something for budgetary for you, I'm going to EIEIO.
And I'm gonna go to the web.
Anyway.
Their own, right?
Transactions, activity ledger query is EIEIO, okay? It doesn't process anything, it's just a way to look up something, okay?
It says it right there.
I don't care.
Okay, so, again, you add with the more button, whatever you want to add to it, purchase order, check number, invoice, vendor, whatever. And then if you want to see all the transactions about purchase order number 103, if you want to see all, if when you invoice and you cancel, a purchase order and you use the word cancel in your invoice number, like that, and all the purchase orders you cancel, if you use that.
How did you get into that?
Transactions, activity ledger query. Okay, so that's EIEIO. And again, look at the more button, add whatever you want on there to sort with. Sure. And there's a variety of things you can add to this. And also wanted to point out to you, you see the arrow pointing off this way?
No.
You click that, there's a drop down with more. So if the arrow's pointing down, that's all the options under that. If the arrow's pointing off to the side, that means click it, because there's more underneath there.
And we've already asked some enhancement for a button at the top that will expand all of those.
Instead of having to click all the side arrows.
Right now, you have to click on each one to see what's under it.
We asked for a button so you click and they all just open up.
So is the cash account the only account you can see?
Let me see,
Down towards the bottom.
towards the bottom here, help me guys.
Cash account.
Cash account, let's click that arrow.
That will only give you the fund and special, all the way to the bottom. I think they're at the very bottom.
At the very
The very bottom.
And that'll give you the full account code.
Yep,
Good deal.
yep, so it's really easy.
And with this, I use Control F a lot, find stuff.
And then anything you pull up and you have there, you can print.
Yeah, if you
Yep.
add it to the screen.
Check this box and it will add it to the screen.
Hit report, and then.
Let your screen refresh, hit report, and boom, you got the report. That's why I like that report button on
And
there.
just remember,
Quick, easy,
if you
get
don't
a
like the
report.
order of any of this stuff on here, you can always click and drag.
Yeah, yeah. If you want the PO number first,
It's completely customizable to whatever you want.
Oh, and since we're talking about that, customizing, adding stuff, if something happens one day and your grid doesn't look proper, doesn't load proper, you think you screwed something up, to the right of that more button is a reset button. You hit that and it puts it back to the way it was.
factory setting.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna say, the factory setting.
Right. Yeah, so if you put all this stuff on the grid and you're like, I don't want it to look, you could go literally uncheck all those boxes, or you can just hit reset, and it'll take it back to what the SSDT had originally built this as. Okay. We're gonna now start into how to process a budgetary check. There's a couple steps, and if you look at handout number 2 or the white handout, these are the steps to process budgetary checks. I hand wrote in here, if you have SC view, after you invoice an SC view, then you start with payables. So there's 3 steps to invoice a check. You go to AP invoice, you go to payables, and you go to disbursements. You go to 3 different places. If you have SC view, you can skip step 1, AP invoices, because you're gonna invoice in SC view. So then you would go to payables, step 2. Then you can do step 1. but a lot of people's like, well, I have SC view, so where do I start on this list? So that's why I wrote that there. Okay? And before I get started, I just wanted to, have the treasurers handout number 3, it's like salmon color, peachy color, whatever color you want to call it. Believe it or not, Valerie did the best explanation of encumbrances in the redesign in this email, and I have saved it and I hand it out every time. Encumbrances are handled differently in the redesign than they are in the classic system. In the classic system, if you closed a month, okay, and you paid on a purchase order that was dated in that previous month, the system would not go back and adjust your previous month's totals because that purchase order was dated there. That month was closed. Whatever you did stayed in the current month you're in. The redesign system's going to go back and adjust your previous. Now, I know that sounds really odd, and why would you do that is my question, but the SSDT spoke with the auditors, and they said that's the way, it's actually the proper way to do it. So, this, when you get back after today, treasurers read this so you kind of have a better understanding of it. Valerie did a really good job, you know Valerie, very detailed. Read this and it'll help explain it a little bit better. Okay, so if we're going to do, start processing our budgetary checks, first place you're going to go is AP invoice. You have your requisition in, it's been converted to a purchase order, they've received the items, you've got the invoice, you're ready to pay. So your first step is transaction AP invoice. You're going to hit click to create, okay? And then it wants to know the purchase order number you want to pay. We're going to put in a purchase order number. Okay. And again, this is in the handout too, so you don't have to write it all down if you don't want to. Then it's going to bring up that purchase order, and you're going to put in an invoice number. Just for easy, I'm going to put in the same as the purchase order number. Now, so one thing I want to point out here that's real important is, right here says date, right here says vendor invoice date. This date is going to default to the date you're doing your invoices. You don't want to backdate that. You want to keep it in the current month because it has all to do with the encumbrances and how they work. You don't want to backdate that. So they didn't have this vendor invoice date when they first created this, and people were complaining. I want to put in the vendor's invoice date. So they created this field. You can put in whatever date you want there. If you want to actually put in the date that's on the invoice, you can do that. Just leave this date to the current, at least the current month you're in. I never change it. You do not. There were some people who always did, and they wanted to continue to do that. So they added that field, but you do not have to put it. It will not flash at you as a required field. Okay. So then, you're going to come down here. Just like in the web, you can still do your fill alls, fill, cancel, clear. So I'm going to do fill and see, and then it's full. Or if you wanted not to do that, let's see if clear works. There. You could actually come over and type in whatever you wanted to pay on this. Okay. Then over here, it's going to say partial, full, cancel full, or cancel partial. You would select however you want to pay that and hit save. So you got all your bills ready to pay. You're just going to sit here and do AP invoice, boom. And there's a warning, negative, bad budget, whatever. Okay, so then you're just going to go start typing your next one. Just keep going, one after another after other, until you have all your AP invoices in.
Okay, when you click and do fill all, can you change one amount in that?
Yes,
Okay,
sure.
does that
Yes.
help, so you don't have to enter?
Or you could click every one, but the one you don't want to fill on.
Okay, and then,
Fill those, then just go to that one.
okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's step one, AP invoices. I'm not gonna go straight down the line here on the transactions, because I kind of want to get a flow for when we're doing the budgetary. So the next is payables. And in payables, oh, but wait, you know what? I just realized, I put $50 in there, and I made it full. I wanted to make it partial. So, what do you want to do? You're gonna go back to AP invoice. You're gonna pull up that 22. You're gonna pull up that purchase order. You're gonna click the eyeball. See right there where it says partial? That means this purchase order's full. You want to now make it partial. So I click, see it says action. What action do you want to take? I want to take the action of making this partial, because I made it full when I just now invoiced it. Click that button, and now the purchase order has been changed from full to partial.
And if you hover over that button, it tells you change status from full to partial.
There it is.
Yeah. Now it'll say from partial to full, but before it said from full to partial.
So that's how you change something. You go back to AP invoices, you pull up that purchase order, and say you've invoiced it 3 or 4 times, okay? You'd find the most recent one that you've invoiced, click on that eyeball, scroll over down here, and click that button. That will make it full or partial, either way. Now we're gonna go to payables. Everything that you just put in AP invoice will appear on the screen. So you can be putting in invoices every day, little at a time, and they'll just sit here in payables till you're ready to pay. Or say you put in a whole big bunch, and Christy says, oh, whoa, we don't have all the money right now to pay that big, long list of bills. You go down and you just check mark the ones you want to pay at that time. Or you just check mark the top box and you pay all of them that are listed in there. But it gives you a chance to look down the list, they're sitting there, and say, I want to pay this one, or all of them. Okay? Then you hit post selected. That's all payables is. That's just holding what you put in AP invoice. Post selected. So it's going to give you the total amount, the date, which would be your check date. How do you want that to be grouped by vendor or invoice? And then here's where if you had a couple different bank accounts, you could select if you had a different bank account. Let me stop right here and show you one other thing before we go any further. There's 2 tabs here. There's this tab, vendor tab, which just kind of lists the vendor and the amount. There's a detail tab. This tab gives you a little bit more information about all the invoices that you're getting ready to pay. And if you go to this tab and you hit your report button, what? Not access last element for empty. What?
You have something else.
In these? Okay, well, let's just do this then. So I have to clear that. Knock one away.
Refresh your page.
Okay, let's try this. Still not. What did I put in there no? Are you kidding me?
Sometimes you can't get rid of the error, you have to go off it to come back.
Let me do this. It won't let me do that.
It'll be a step R thing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let me just, I'm trying something here so that it'll, maybe if that's the one that, is throwing the error, because I really want to show you this. The Details tab. Oh, I don't know what's wrong there. Adam, see if you can figure out what's wrong there, because I want to show them this. So we're at payables,
Is that hitting once you get to post?
report.
No, she's trying to hit report.
Oh,
On the details tab, if you hit your report, that's gonna be like your invoice list. That's what I wanted to show you. If you hit report on the vendor one, it doesn't give you a totals on your report.
There is an end report button on that.
But if you go to the details tab,
select all. It's not,
with my account,
So yours is
imagine
working.
that.
that's coming up. You want me to share my screen?
Would you please? Wonder what's wrong with my account? It's the same account. Only me.
So,
It all started with the muffin.
Tim Hortons didn't have my order.
So we went to vendor, hit report, you get the report menu.
which one?
Yes, thank you. And there's your invoice list. Okay. Well, now I'm worried, why is my account not working?
We've been revoked.
Okay, then I'll go home.
I'm gonna put away your app.
Anyway, so I wanted to show you how to get an invoice list, because I know a lot of you use that, okay? So anyway, you select all the ones you want to pay and post select it.
Do me a favor, miss.
What?
Log out, log back in.
I don't wanna do that. And then you hit, like I said, it is gonna give you the total there also of what you're paying. But if you want that paper report, okay, hit post. When you do that, all of those invoices are going to, and it will give you if there's any negative balances or whatnot, continue to print. All of those that you entered will go over to the third step automatically for you, which is disbursements.
It automatically takes you to
It
disbursement.
takes you right to the disbursement screen, okay? Now, on this screen is all checks, whether they've been paid, whether they've been reconciled, whether they're outstanding. You just want to see the ones that you now need to print. So right here, this show printable, check mark that box. And I'm on page 19. Now, this is going to show all of those invoices that I entered and getting ready to cut a check for. What you would do is check mark the box, select them all, and click Generate Print File. This is where you put your starting check number, okay? Or if you want it to default, you leave it blank. Then how do you want these checks to come out? Do you want them to come out by name, vendor number? Our secretary likes if I do it by name so that she can stuff them easier. So I always select name. Now here is where you would have to check with your printing companies on what format to print. Most of them that I have seen, it's XML to print checks. And here's also print electronic checks. If you want a paper copy of your electronic check to file away, you can check mark that box and you will get just a sheet of paper to show you that you've processed that electronic check. I'm sorry?
Check that little box.
Check that
says
box
print
right there.
electronic check.
Yep. To get the paper checks for the electronic ones, yes. Okay. When you do that and you hit generate, it's gonna give you a file. Now that file will need to be saved on your computer somewhere so that your printing software can access it, connect and print your checks. I don't know where each printing software wants you to have that file saved and what it needs to be named. So you would have to check with them on that. We use Edge, so ours is named disbursements, and that's fine. And I save it to a certain drive on my computer, and Edge knows that that's where to go access it.
Once it accesses that file, does it know? Or do you have to rename?
In Edge, it wipes it out. Once it prints it, that file's gone. And then the new file the next time you process.
Most of them, you would save it as the same name each time,
So it overwrites.
so it overwrites. Or like she said, Edge wipes out the current one, and then when you go to put the next one in, there's nothing there, so it just saves.
Yeah, my file's always blank, and then the next one comes.
Most of your companies are well aware of Redesign, and most likely have a district out there that have used it, so.
So they should be able to answer these questions pretty much for you, you know, is it XML? Where do I need to save that file? That sort of thing. Okay, so that's printing budgetary charts. Okay, we're gonna stay on the disbursement tab, because that is actually next in line. Like I said, this is where you're gonna go to print your checks and where we click that show printables box. But there's a lot more on this tab than just that. As you can see right here. I'll do that, so it's not gonna do that. Generate print file, reconcile, unreconcile, auto reconcile, void, and resequence, all on this tab. So let's start with, this next one down here, next one over. Reconcile. You have your checks from the bank, and you're ready to reconcile. Type in the check number. Check the box, and hit reconcile. Now, here's what I do. I reconcile my checks every day. I don't know how all of you do it. But I always get, the very first check number. So if my very first check number is 10, and then from 10, it's 11, 12, 15, 18, 22, whatever. I put 10 here, resequence it, so it's in order, and then I just go down and click all the checks that need reconciled, and hit the reconcile button. What's the reconcile date that you want to use? And you click reconcile.
That's your table screen. And then it's figured
He
out.
thinks he figured out what's.
Okay, real quick though, it will show you here, there's no failed. So if you click a box and you've already reconciled the check and you try and reconcile it again, it's gonna fail. And it tells you the grand total amount of the checks you just reconciled. But, real quick, let's just say I reconciled check 10 and I meant to hit 11. And then you can see, on here, yeah, you can see check 10's reconciled. And I didn't want to do that, I wanted to do 11. So I click that, and I click on reconcile. And now check number 10 is outstanding. Okay, what did you want me to do?
Just do after tables for.
Well, I have nothing on it now,
Go to the details.
but I don't have anything on there now.
That's okay, that's one,
Okay,
because there's their issue when they're.
oh, really? Okay.
Leave it to you to be weird.
Of course I find it. Anyway, so that's reconcile and reconcile.
So real quick, on the payables grid, you cannot have username as the first.
Are you serious?
So I was able to recreate your issue there.
That's
So-
crazy.
Weird FYI,
Okay.
username cannot be the first one. It can be on there, just can't be the first one.
And there's your issue to fix that?
Yes.
Okay, good, because that's silly. Anyway,
That is.
all right, so that was generate print file for when you want to print your budgetary checks, reconcile, unreconcile. Auto reconcile, does anybody get a file from the bank of all the checks that they've cashed and upload it, and it automatically reconciles your checks for you? Good. That would be auto reconcile is. You would get a file from the bank, you would import it into here, and it would reconcile your checks for you. I don't like that because if they cash a check for the wrong amount and it automatically just reconciles here, then I'm going through the whole thing. So, but that ability is here, just so you know. We would need a file from the bank to test if you ever decided you wanted to do that. Okay, so now we're gonna do void. So let's do Here's your check, it's outstanding. You need to void that check for whatever reason may be. Click void. What date and invoices. So, you want to void the invoices also, meaning if you plan on using this purchase order and those invoices to reproduce a new check because the vendor never got it, whatever the case may be, you don't want to void the invoice. Okay? You want to uncheck that box because you're going to reuse that purchase order and those invoices to get them a fresh check. But you paid the vendor and it was all just a big mistake, shouldn't have ever happened. Yeah, void everything and confirm. Only bad thing is there's no unvoid. So make sure when you void a check, it's the right check number. But it's that easy to void a check. Find it, mark it, and hit void. Resequence you guys are probably gonna have to do, and we can work on this tomorrow with everyone. When you print budgetary checks in the classic system, and you turn around tomorrow and you're gonna invoice all those ones that you've printed in the redesign system, it sorts differently. Even though you have the same name, everything the same, they sort out differently. So if you have a check in the classic system that's check number 100, it may come out in the redesign system as check 105. So we're gonna have to resequence those in the redesign system to match classic for you, so that when you go to balance, everything matches perfectly. It's not hard, we will all work on it tomorrow, and this would be a way if you ever did need to resequence a check later on, and you're only gonna have to do it for this month, because after this month, you're not gonna worry about matching to classic any longer. So we can work on that tomorrow. I'll show you a quick example how to resequence, because you may have to do that in the future for something. If you're holding out a check number for something specific and somebody accidentally uses that check number, whatever the case. So what you want to do is hit resequence, give the original check number, and say you only want to resequence one, you don't want to do a whole range, you would just put in that same check number, do the ending check number, and then you put in the new check number that you want it to be. And do you want to void the old checks, or do you want to not void them and save them because you have that check number assigned for something else? Box to void if need be. And you can hit validate, make sure no check numbers are already used. Good, it's green, hit post. And now 6520 is now 6530. So we'll work on that tomorrow. That will be something you'll have to do. You did? Well, thank you. Distributions, error adjustments, page 20. This is account mod in the classic system. If you don't like account mod, or do, you don't.
I do a lot of account mods.
Well, this is a lot easier. So this is where you would go if purchase order was paid on and it was out of the wrong account code and you want to correct it. You can go here and you'll hit create. Give it a number, which is like your receipt number in the classic system. Let's go back so we can make sure that's fine. Transactions, distributions, error correction. Create. We'll give it a receipt number, date. You can put a description if you want, plus, and then you're going to even put in a positive or the negative. The positive amounts for the incorrect account, the negatives for the correct account. So we'll just do positives for the incorrect account. It's confusing. I have to look at it every time.
I was reading this
Oh,
below you.
okay. That's for revenues.
Yeah, I was below you.
These are for expenditures. You can do the same thing for revenues too, but, okay. Again, you have to hit the hyphen key on your keyboard in between the, codes. Now I'm just gonna choose an account. Hit my plus sign again. I'll make this one the negative.
Okay, you've got that in description,
Sorry.
your amount.
Oh. See that? Thank you. Okay. And it's corrected. Yeah, if you pay on a purchase order and it's the wrong account, you could either go through account mod, or you could do another purchase order to reverse it, or a receipt, yes. Yes, absolutely. So that's account mod in the redesign system. I think it's easier. Okay, do we want to take a break? Does anybody need something to drink, restroom? Go.
Shut up, Missy.
Okay, I bet that was on the recording. Anyway. Transactions, pending transactions. This is where you are going to go to post your payroll, your, SERS, STRS, board disc transactions into the budgetary system. So when payroll pushes that over to the budgetary side, it's gonna sit in pending transactions, waiting for someone to actually post it, okay? It doesn't matter what month budgetary's in. If you're in July and payroll's in August and they push that over, it's just gonna sit in pending transactions. And you let that sit there till you're ready to post when you get into August. Not gonna affect your balancing at all. Just a little holding place. Okay.
I'm up there now. All right.
Melissa is gonna actually go into our OME-RESA files and post so that you can see how this works.
This is live, not Memorex. Okay. Because Missy told you, you're gonna go into transactions, pending transactions, and this will be the only type of thing that's ever in pending transactions is payroll stuff, batches that were sent over from payroll. So the first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna post payroll. You have 3 buttons up here. I can go directly to post, I can reject the batch, or I can validate the batch. Go ahead and validate it. I have it, and you know they're green, they're just warnings. I can continue to move on, but just let me know I have a couple of budget line items that are in the negative. Here I'm gonna post, and this is what I was trying to tell, I think it only affects Switzerland. You need a paper check. So you need to make sure you uncheck this box right here for electronic. Okay? That up while she makes her notes. It does default to electronic. The other thing you need to make sure you change is the date. It's the date that I processed the payroll and sent the batch over. So it's 7/28, but that's not my payroll date. So I need to change this to my payroll date. Again, if you have more than one bank that you have to select from, I don't know anybody who does have that. Here. And I'm gonna post. Now, all this did was post the batch. In Redesign, you won't have a requisition, you won't have a purchase order, you won't have any of that. It goes straight to outstanding invoice, and it's almost like outstanding invoices. So now I'm gonna go over to transactions and disbursements. And I'm gonna click on the show printables. It automatically brings up my payroll. You can also filter by the type and type in payroll, and it will pull it up for you. And create the payroll, disbursement, and my check number. Oh, do I still use 9 for my memo for the electronic check?
And that's why she's doing this, because she's very picky on her descriptions and everything, so I just left it.
I am anal about what I run every report, I save every report, and an auditor never asks me for it. So I don't need to do an XML print file, but I do a PDF file personally, and I staple it to my list, my, payroll checklist.
I will uncheck that print electronic check, correct?
If do you need an, yeah, you would. You're gonna hit XML because I'm assuming with your printing company, to create a file to send them to print from. It's all a matter of preference. You might not want to print this and not care. You do have to go through this step to assign that check number though. Even if you don't want to print the check number, the file. I do. I'm gonna wait and see it printed. Remember to change this to Adobe today.
Not on the screen.
Oh, here we go again. How did I get this back on again? Share screen again?
Because you shared the app.
How do you do it? There you go. And here's just a copy of my memo check. And I usually give a copy to Missy, so when she's filing checks, she knows what's what in there.
And then I'm gonna send it to the check printing software, and it will print the whole check.
Yeah, it will print. That was my.
We can put the
Oh, no,
typewriter out.
you don't need typewriter.
Yeah, you should. I don't know your check printing software, so I can't speak authority. That's not what you have to do, but you should, and that's an XML file that you're gonna send off to have them print.
No more typewriter. So we do our manual, so do you guys do electronic checks where it automatically goes through? Like, we print our physical checks, you say you do an electronic?
I do electronic because what I'll do now, when I do my payroll, I'll go online and, well, Missy does, because for auditing purposes, I upload the ACH tape. She goes on and schedules transfers.
Is that how you guys do it too?
So
You
you do it
transfer your budgetary to
electronically.
payroll?
Yeah, we do it
You do a
electronic.
paper check? You do a paper check?
Okay, so that's how
You guys do a paper check? No. You do a paper check?
No.
Transfer it
Then
like,
I would have been sitting here fretting all
So much
morning, so I have
easier.
my text message that
Right,
shows my
Yeah.
receipt.
yeah, that's why I was asking
So
about
much
how the
easier.
electronic works, like, if we would wanna do that. So you, that tape file goes into a file.
Yeah, your
You upload-
ACH tape file, she uploads to the bank for direct deposit, and then Missy will go in and schedule a transfer for my total gross pay from budgetary over, so it's electronic, it's within the system, it moves. So I don't need a paper check for that because it's already been moved, but I have an electronic because I have to charge those expenditures off
Right.
in budgetary. So I do an electronic just to show that transfer for X amount of dollars, here's the memo check that goes with it, the electronic
See?
transfer.
So you just go to your bank
Mhm.
and just do an automatic transfer
And I
from one
just-
account to the other.
yep.
Yeah, go online and schedule it. We have it set up, at SCRS, like, again, I don't have SCRS. What we do is, it's a board disk, you know, the board, so I do that, and when I get to the payment section, that this amount from this account,
Yep.
that this amount
No
from this
check.
account, so employee and employer share. So, but the tax is my Medicare, I do have her transfer over the board share Medicare to payroll, and then I do an electronic out of my side completely. That is splitting it.
Yeah, we really don't cut checks.
We don't. We try to do few. There's only one check I still do for deductions, and we have one person on the Philly tax. That's the paper, and I do a quarter. So any more questions about the payroll posting of it? I went straight to disbursements, just on a check, no purchase order, nothing.
So Missy, correct me if I'm wrong, when you post your retirements, those create a purchase order.
Yeah,
Payroll's the only one that does not create a purchase order. Goes straight to disbursements for a check. But retirement does create a purchase order that you then invoice and process through.
great. So now I'm gonna do I don't do board recs. I only have my board distribution, or in this case, employer distribution. All I have to do is I'll go through, like, SCRS, validate, good. And you have to watch the date. If this is the payee vendor I have it set up with, leave it that way. If I didn't, I could apply the payee name and address to the vendor, which is up in payroll. So I have a vendor, it's coming from the old system, I have a vendor for it already, so I never check that box. Custom, get my, medical,
I see you're doing them one at a time. Like, do them all one at a time?
you have to, there's no
Okay.
way to select all and post.
Okay.
On these. See, there's no box up here to select all and a post button, so. Okay, so now I've posted all my batches, and that's what I was explaining to you, if budgetary is still in August and you're in September, you can post your batches, all your employer distributions, and it will sit here, it does not touch your book. And I post it from here. So just to keep it going, if you want to post those batches to get to, I don't know the division of labor on this. I personally do all of ours, but Mary Jo, you might post the batches, and Larry, you have to post them on your side. I don't know, everybody's different, so. Now that I've posted them, they've become purchase orders for me. I can tell where mine are right away because my purchase order numbers for are different from our regular purchase order. I could filter if I had a look for them. Or +1. I'm gonna go and I'm gonna view this, it's quicker for me to put it, to view it, and then I can edit it. So if the account number's wrong, you use last year's grant, and it should, like 2021 grant. You can go in, I always type in move these, they put them in an order that they like. You can use these arrows to move them up. And accounts, description, accounts, anything you need to.
You have to change that every time you do that purchase order?
Yeah, I have to change it every time. The reason why, and do you know why I'm changing it? I told you, I'm anal. Now, I like how it looked in classic, so I'm gonna continue, and I moved them in order.
And
so.
she moves them up and down in order to. See why I wouldn't demonstrate this for you?
Oh, please.
Like that, but I have like purchase orders for SRS and all the
So you don't have to,
125 lines.
you see, you don't have to, like, again, I do it.
If I would, that would be something I would
Don't.
do, but that's a lot. I don't know, everybody size.
Yeah,
I
it's
agree.
right.
Don't do it. Don't
Okay.
do it.
So I've modified the purchase orders to look how I want them to move, to look. Okay? Now, this little support over here with the paper, that's an invoice button. I can go in, gotta walk it through now, invoice it and charge it off. Invoice.
And that's taking her to AP invoice, like in the,
Mhm.
when you're cutting your checks.
I put the invoice in, and today I have to change the date because I want it to be on the day of payday, so I do change the date on the purchase. Usually you shouldn't, you know, let it default. In this particular case, I'm changing it because I should have done it. Okay. Build. Okay. So she said, once, the first time I invoice, it automatically switches me over to invoices. So for the rest of them, I just have to come up here and purchase order number. So, there they are sitting there. I will tell you, all my, just a FYI, all my insurance is on one purchase order normally, medical, dental, vision, but I pay them separately. Some's automatic, some I have to go online and pay, they're done separately. Dental and vision, because I want them to be on separate checks separately, even though they're same company. I'll go over to details, and I'll put dental, and I'll post it, and then I come back and I'll do vision. So they're on separate memo check numbers. Still, if I don't, doesn't matter. If I wanted to go back, like I just said, and post the other one, I could hit back and then now post vision. I did dental, come back, I could do it. Options by IDOT vendor number. Again, I give the copy to Missy, so that clear the bank are correct. Questions about any of that?
So at what point, if we're not closed for the month, at what point would she need to stop?
Posting from payroll to budgetary. When you do it, when you're in your payroll instance, and you say post to USAS, you have to stop at that point. And that, it will sit in that pending transaction grid, is moved over to the next month, and then you would go in, or whoever does it would go in and post those batches when she says, you can post those batches.
So just don't go into budgetary until you're sure what they've closed the previous month.
Batches will sit and wait for you till you're ready. I mean, you could even do them all at the end of the month if you wanted to. because that's more work for you. I think it's really not worth it, so. Any other questions on that? Pretty simple, straightforward invoice. All right, Mitch, you can take over.
So that's all pending transaction is. It's a holding place for everything coming over from here. So now we'll go on to purchase orders on page 22 if you're following along. Here's where all your purchase orders will be listed, and you can invoice them from here instead of going to AP invoice. However, then you have to locate the purchase order number and click the little invoice button. That's why I suggest you just go straight to AP invoice. You can just type in the purchase. It's easier, in my opinion, to do it like that. There is a print button. I don't know how that would be set up with your printing companies to print purchase orders right straight through here. There's a view. You can eyeball the purchase order, just looking at it, look it up. And when you hit the view, there's an amend, a clone, an invoice, and a repair. And we'll get to all those here in a minute. But if you actually click then the edit button, it comes up to amend and edit. And you guys know about the difference between amending and editing it. And it'll even give you this little message. The edit option should only be used if the PO has not been sent to the vendor. If the PO has already been sent, then you want to amend it. And then that way, when you redo the purchase order, it will print out with the word amended on it for the vendor. So I'm gonna just do a real quick create of a purchase order, just so you get an idea, which you kind of just saw Melissa do when she was creating the purchase orders for the SCRS, STRS, whatever. But we'll just do a quick one here. And then the date, and then the vendor. Buddy. You can type in the description. You had that option too in the classic system if you wanted to put in the description. If not, you can just come down here and hit the plus. You can add an item. Why is my cat? Yep. I'll do. And you see when you start to type, the codes come up. So if you don't know one, you know the beginning part of it, you can start typing, scroll down and find it. I always just had my codes written out, but that's a nice, easy little trick. Split price and split quantity are still here. I don't know if anybody used that in the classic system, but that's still here also. Then you can also, if you have several items and you want to remove one, you didn't want to type that in there, there's a delete to delete just that line. Then you could, or you can hit add an item and it'll add another line for you. Or you can hit copy and it'll copy the same with the description. So if you're ordering paper and you want to put in paper pink, you can hit copy, paper blue, hit copy, paper yellow, instead of having to type that. You know what I mean? Because if they're different item numbers that you have to put in or whatever the case may be.
So if you want to carry forward that same account code, you need to.
Yes. Or if you just want to add a new line, you just hit add, and then it's going to just bring up the line, and you have to add to it whatever it is you want. And then, if, like I said, if I don't want this one in there, hit the X. Okay. Remove that out. Then you hit save. There it is, telling you about the budget line. Okay, let's say I hit save too quick and I forgot to add shipping onto that. Okay, so you go here, edit, and I just did it. The vendor doesn't have it, so I'm going to hit the edit button. Now realize if you've processed something on that purchase order, if you made a partial payment on it, it's not going to let you hit edit. You will have to hit the amend. Go down here, hit my line. Shipping. And save. That's it for a purchase order. I will show you one other thing on that if it's gonna let me. See these two boxes right here, close and create new? If you would have, and I know you guys use SCView, so everybody in your schools pretty much puts the requisitions in and everything, but if you're gonna have a stack of requisitions and or purchase orders, because these two buttons are on the requisition screen too. You have a stack you're gonna add, you wanna check the box to create new. It's not gonna let me now because
Check
you're doing,
close.
there, create new. So that when you hit save for this purchase order, this screen will just refresh and you won't have to go back here and hit create again. It'll just refresh to a blank purchase order screen and you can just keep typing. A new feature that has just come out, let me see if it's gonna do it for me. Come on. And this is on page 23. This is like just a couple weeks old. Oh my goodness, really? There's a repair button, and I think I just touched base on that when we first brought it up. And the repair button allows you to change the purchase order date, vendor, and or item account code, as long as the purchase order has not had any payments posted to it. Prior to this little release, you were not able to go in and change those things. But with this newest release, if you hit the repair button, and I can't believe it's taken this long.
Click X.
I'm going to.
See the
There.
blue line go.
Let me just do this. If I go into, let me do the eyeball. The eyeball, there's the repair button, okay? So if you hit that repair button, then it's going to allow you to change the account, or the vendor, or the date, okay? Just a little tip there. I'm going to move on to receipts. Again, the screens all look very much the same with the print button, the eyeball to view, the edit, the delete. Create a quick receipt. And your receipt number, your date, received from here. Put in fees, receipt, reduction of expenditure. Code 6. Oh, but you know what? I put in $25. I meant to put in 28. You don't have to reverse a receipt or anything like that. Good. You click edit.
Yeah.
You go down to the dollar amount. You make it an 8. You hit save.
And you change the last year's grant.
So if you make a boo-boo, it's quick. It's easy.
Yeah,
Just,
if you want to enter multiple receipts.
Let's see here. If we create one, yes. Create new, then that screen will refresh to this blank screen every time after you hit save. Yeah.
And it will bring box after box after box like this. So when you are done, you have to click close, 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 yeah. We know. I think it's an enhancement that was there anything we.
Sure, there's probably one. Just be careful when you're hitting copy receipt that you don't hit reverse.
Is that under if I hit edit?
No, if you hit on quick view.
Click on the
So like,
eyeball?
Say if you had a receipt that's all the time, you clone it. Careful you don't hit reverse. We had a district do that reversed a bunch of times, and then it was fun trying to get them to balance.
Yep.
Be aware of that.
Yep, clone purchase orders, all these have the clone button too. I'm on page 25.
If you print it, it's kind of
Yeah,
different.
Refunds. You need to refund somebody, a parent paid for something, you need to refund them, whatever the case may be, this is where you would go to do that. The only thing with refunds, you might wanna make a note, usually when you pay a budgetary check, you go to AP invoice, you go to payables, then you go to disbursements. When you do a refund, you process the refund on this screen, go straight to disbursements. You don't have to go through AP invoice, you don't have to go through payables. Okay?
And
Where did you guys?
Disbursements.
you create that refund, there's a box you have to check.
And I'm gonna show them a refund real quick too. I'm trying to go through and show you quick examples, just little tips of things on the screens that you might wanna make sure you have or don't have. So we'll just create a real quick refund. The date, refund to, I don't fill in because when you choose the vendor here, it'll populate in that box, so why do it twice? All about ease. See this box right here? Very important. If you need to print a refund check, you have to check that box. If you miss checking that box and you hit save, you're not gonna get a check. Okay? So make sure you click check.
And there's no way to edit that one.
There's no way. Once you hit
Not yet.
save, there's no way to go back. So you'd have to create another refund
So you gotta create an offsetting refund.
and an offsetting one to get this one off.
Correct, so one.
Right.
So there is an enhancement to change that, it's coming down the pipe, I think, early next year, but it's not here yet.
So that's why I'm stressing it, so that you don't have any frustration over that. Click that box if you need a check. Then you're gonna come here, pick your vendor, plus sign, description, dollar amount. And save. This is refund number 7. So as soon as that processes, you go over to disbursements. We'll do that real quick just to show you. And generate your print file. Requisitions. This requisition screen looks just like the purchase order screen, and I know a lot of you do requisitions in SCView, so I'm not gonna actually create a requisition, but I'll convert a requisition to a purchase order, so you can see that real quick. Do you convert them in SCView too? You do? Okay. All right, so we're going to convert this one right here. See where it says converted false? That means it is not a purchase order yet. So you click the box, you hit convert, you put in the purchase order date you want, you put in the purchase order number that you want, or you can auto assign, and you hit post. It will tell you if anything's in the negative, close the box, and it's now purchase order. So if you would have to convert one in this system, it's that easy. I'm sorry? Do you want to print the requisition or the purchase order? The purchase order, well, we're under requisitions, so then you would go back to purchase orders. Yeah. Right, right. Then you would type in the purchase order number if it didn't come to the top. Most of the time they do. And then print. Transfers and advances. Transfers, you don't pay back, advances you do. So when you go to create one, you select if you want to transfer or an advance. We'll do an advance so I can show you how to do some payback on it, okay? And you're going to put in a dollar amount. date, description, then the debit code, credit code, and you hit save. So there it is at the very top. So now you want to pay it back. But let's say athletics doesn't have enough to pay back all of them, all of the money that you advanced them. You're going to pay back a portion of it right now. Click on the eyeball, go down to repayments, and you put in the dollar amount that they're repaying you. They're only going to pay you back $5,000. Okay? Save. Or you could put in here partial. Whatever you want to put in the description. Save. Then it keeps track of how much they've paid back to you right there on the screen. So if you want to see that transaction, you can just go click on the eyeball. Say, yep, they still owe me some more money. Repaid, false, because it didn't hit the initial amount that you gave. Okay, we're going on to budgeting. This is approach in Classic, but this is a lot different than approach in Classic. And it takes a little getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's pretty slick what it does. So you start out with scenarios. And scenarios is the best way for me to describe it, a big expandable folder. You're going to take all of your budgets and all of your revenues from every account in the district, and you're going to throw it in this expandable folder. Everything's going to be in there, and then you're going to say, take that entire folder and put it into my proposed amount, where I want it to be to apply to my budgets and revenues. So you're going to create, and I'm going to do it for FY 22, and then I'm going to put budgets and revenues. Just remember, everything has to be in here before you move on, all accounts that you want to have active in your next year or your current year. And I'm going to save it because I'm big on saving because I've lost things so many times before. But anyway, so now we got our folder. We just created our folder. Now we're going to start creating spreadsheets.
I have a question.
Sure.
Before you go further.
Sure.
Below the box where you type budgets and
Yep.
revenues, it shows.
Right. And you know why? Because it's saying you probably should already have your budgets and revenues for 2022 in at this late date, but we can do it for 2023. Let's do that. We're doing them for next
So
year.
those should match then?
Yep.
Okay, that was,
So whatever year you're working on, you want to make it here,
okay.
okay? Now you're fine. Ask away. Please stop me if you have any questions. Now you're going to create your spreadsheet. What this system does is, and I don't know how many of you would do this, but do you let your student activities advisor or your athletic director tell you how much they need in all their budget lines? Or how much revenue they're going to bring in?
Yep.
This system has the ability to do it either way. You either create one big spreadsheet for your expenditures and your revenues, and you fill in the amounts that you want, or you create a spreadsheet for athletics and a spreadsheet for your SAD club and your class advisor, and you email them out and you have them fill in, then they give it back to you, you combine them all and put it in here. Do it either way. So you hit create for your spreadsheet. We're going to work on budgets first because you're going to do both. And you're going to name your sheet, whatever you want. Now, if you wanted to break it out, or even if you want it all together, you go over onto the second tab, do the drop down on the code, fund, double click it, it will move over, equals, and then if you were going to send it out to your athletics, you'd put 300 for your athletics. Save that spreadsheet, it's gonna create a spreadsheet with all the athletic budgets, and you can email it to them and have it filled out. If you're not gonna let them do that, you wanna work on just general fund today, do that. Hit save sheet. You're gonna create it. Basically, what you're doing here is you're just creating your spreadsheet so that you can go right down the spreadsheet and fill in the dollar amounts you want for next year's proposed. And then you're gonna do the same thing with the revenue. It automatically populates it based on what's already in the system as your expenditure accounts and your revenue accounts.
Able to bring in the history from the prior year and bring
Yes.
it over.
Then you just go down the column and you type in the dollar amounts you want. Now, here's the one thing that most people don't like. In Classic, you are able to say, increase this by this percentage. This, within the system, doesn't do it itself. You have to go into the spreadsheet, the Excel spreadsheet, do a formula based on the previous years of dollar amounts, put in the percentage, and then fill it in that column. Not just the click of a button saying, increase this by 10%.
So, real quick note, once you create a spreadsheet on a scenario, you wanna hit save.
Save.
Or else it won't, it'll be gone. Let me go back.
That's what I say, I'm paranoid about hitting save on this, so you can hit save as many times as you want. Okay, so now here's where the spreadsheet is for budgets. I'm gonna save my spreadsheet. They're gonna be able to see this when I go to my desktop, are they?
Yeah, shared your screen.
Okay. Well, where'd it go?
A little tough left under recycling.
Got it. See this column right here? Proposed amounts. You go down there, you fill in your dollar amounts. Okay? Same thing with your revenue. You're gonna create a revenue spreadsheet. You're gonna fill in your dollar amounts. You're gonna save this spreadsheet. Once you do that, you're going to upload it back here. So this is where we downloaded it. This is we're going to upload and replace. You'd hit this button. Okay. You're going to browse for wherever you have that spreadsheet saved with your new figures in it. You're going to upload it, and it's going to replace this one that had nothing in that proposed amount column. So you can either do all your budgets, one spreadsheet that you're going to fill out. You can make multiples, send out, and then just upload here. And do the same thing with your revenues. Go over to this second tab. Again, if you want to separate it out, that's where you would do so. If you don't have to do that, and it's just going to produce all your codes. Save sheet. Takes a minute because it's pulling all the account codes. And then there's your revenues. You download the spreadsheet, you fill in that column, you upload it. Once you have them all uploaded, whether you have two, one for budgets, one for revenues, or you have 22, all in there together, you go back here and you click on this button right here, which says Promote Scenarios. When you do that, that whole folder is going to move to Proposed Amounts. And there's going to be a long list of all your expenditures here, all your revenues here in this tab. And you can go down the column, verifying the numbers.
One quick note, you wanna select the fiscal year.
it's gonna be 21, but,
Otherwise, it's gonna have every fiscal year that you have budgets in there. This first year won't be a big issue, but 5 years from now, a lot of information in there.
and here's where you can go to tweak something. If you created a new, account and you wanna add it, don't start all the way back with the spreadsheet. You can tweak it here. You can create one. You decided you wanna change one of these dollar amounts. You can edit it. Change the dollar amount. If it's just little tweaks, go to your proposed amounts. Don't start all the way back with your spreadsheet. And this is all in the book too, and, we'll help you the first time. So now they're sitting here waiting for you to go to your board and get this approved. Okay? You have your board meeting, these numbers are approved, or you come back and tweak the little things that maybe they said to change, whatever the case may be. Now, you want to apply them to your actual budgets and revenue accounts. Again, like Adam said, you have to select the fiscal year, and you hit apply. This box is going to come up. Do you want them to be permanent? Do you want them to be temporary? Or are you doing just adjustments to what your initials were? Select that. I never do temporaries, I always do permanents. But everybody's different. Okay, if you do temporaries, then when they do become permanent, you go back here and apply again and select permanent. And apply. And then they will be in your next year's proposed amounts. So when you open your books for July, they will be there. Questions? Only thing I want to say is make sure everything's in that folder before you apply. Make sure
Before you promote
everything's,
it.
yeah, everything's in that scenario folder before you promote it up to proposed amount.
So is that something that just the treasurer?
She can give it to access to you if you would like. This system can be tweaked so many different ways with access. We had a treasurer who did not want to allow her payroll person to open the next period to start running payroll. By default, the payroll person can open and close posting periods, because if she's out and you need to start payroll, who's gonna open that period so you can start payroll?
I think by default, it's just the treasurer.
Oh, I thought posting periods were all, because I thought we had to take that away from that one payroll person. We had to take that privilege away. She didn't want her to have it.
Some of these that.
Maybe they have changed it. So.
That's what you're thinking?
But we can tweak so many different things with this system. Every little option we can tweak. So if she would like you to have that to help her,
And I'll show you a little bit of that later, just
Yeah.
a very high level, because there's so many different things that you can now, I mean, every single access could be customized. It's no longer standard like it was before. I mean, they have a standard, but after that, everything can be customized, so.
any questions on this? And again, we will help you with this section when it comes time. Once you get used to it, it is pretty cool how it works.
Are you gonna talk about adjustments
What do you mean? Help me.
before the, when you do, apply? I didn't know if you had it in your notes to talk, because we learned something this summer and I wanted to share.
Would you please expand on that for me?
Okay, when you, enter your scenarios, you can,
When you're gonna go to apply them,
when you go to, when you're setting, you wanna make adjustments.
here, let me do this, Missy, 'cause
So
then,
your spreadsheet, you're gonna use your spreadsheet again to do adjustments.
oh, the spreadsheet, we're going clear back to the spreadsheet, okay.
Right.
Okay.
So when you're in the spreadsheet and you wanna adjust, your drama club's taking a trip, and it's gonna be more than what you thought it was, and you wanna change it, and they're not the only one. When you adjust your spreadsheet,
I know what you mean.
you don't just put, I wanna increase by $1,000 or $5,000. You're gonna put in what you want the new appropriation to be, total. So when you go back over to proposed amounts, and you, one of her, selections, you saw adjustments on the drop-down, the system will go and say, okay, this is what you did originally, this is what you want it now, and it figures out how much to adjust it. You don't have to tell how much, okay, I want to adjust by $1,523.65. No, this is what I want it to be. You figure out what that number is, and they do it for you. That adjustment is what you want it to be. If you're not changing anything, you still leave the number that's there, because if you take it to a zero, it's gonna wipe out that original, 'cause it's gonna override. Well, only you put what you want that new ending number to be, the total amount. Found that out the hard way this summer. We did.
Somebody needed to make adjustments to her expenditure lines.
So you have to come clear back out here to the spreadsheet.
No, I'm gonna show you an easier way.
Yeah,
I'm gonna show you an easier way.
Yeah.
If you have
she
just
was
a few.
using a spreadsheet,
She
that's why I
chose
had
to use the spreadsheet, and I'm thinking that may have been because she had so many adjustments, I don't know.
I believe it
If
was.
you just do a couple, you could.
I'm gonna show you an easier way, yeah, absolutely, yes. Okay, yeah, no, you don't have to do all that, no. Huh?
I said, no wonder you said you're not gonna like this at first.
Now, if you don't wanna do the whole spreadsheet thing, your other option is to go to budgeting, proposed amounts, create, and add them in one by one. But you probably have so many lines that it's gonna take you a long time. So, I would just do the spreadsheet, I'd pull the spreadsheet out. And the reason why you wanna pull the spreadsheet out of the system is because all the columns are already set for you. You don't have to worry about creating a spreadsheet that's gonna upload correctly with the right column. And all the numbers are in it for you. Count codes, I should say.
So, okay, here's my scenario I'm thinking of. We rolled into July and maybe in August, get a CCIP grant. But have to add those codes in. Title one, where we've got a lot of codes that go with that. The spreadsheet would be the better route to go on that.
That depends on how many codes you got. That just depends on how many things you would have to add. Personally,
I mean,
if you
there's a
just,
lot of, we use a lot of, signature codes because we break it down for building.
my opinion, and again, this is totally up to you, yeah, you can use the spreadsheet. I would go to core, account, expenditures, maybe create one, and then if you're just tweaking the building, the OPU, clone it and just change the OPU. Wouldn't you, Adam? Wouldn't that be the easiest way to do it?
Yeah.
In my opinion. I would click the eyeball, I would hit clone, I would just change the OPU,
I mean, especially if you're setting the account.
that's how I would do it, my personal opinion. Now, if you have to do a budget adjustment, and you don't wanna go all through the spreadsheet, you find the line, you click the eyeball, you do budget adjustment. Create, and make it an adjustment and the dollar amount.
So you could essentially like go into last year's code
Mm-hmm.
and clone each one of those and then
You could.
change the special copy.
You could. Yep. So again, that's up to you, it's on how many you have. This to me is quicker if you don't have a lot.
Add, like you use.
The spreadsheet is essentially the mass add to the appropriations. I mean, I don't know, is there another way to mass add that?
The spreadsheet doesn't carry the account.
Yeah.
The spreadsheet is just pulling from the, what's,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a way to mass that account.
Yeah. How would you add a new account?
Grant,
Right, okay, so,
add the next,
Yeah,
next year,
next
you know,
year's
next
stuff.
year's, but over the account.
That's why I say you go, she said to go into this and like you could clone the previous year's
Right.
account
Yeah,
codes
one
and
at a
just-
time, but
Yeah.
does it?
There is a mass add option for accounts. You can go in and.
it's under,
look at
yeah, it's under
that.
mass load,
So there's a mass add as well.
mass add.
From, go to your,
Cash?
Yep, there should be a mass ad option. Maybe,
Might not have the permission.
I don't know if man.
Cause you've never logged out and back in,
Well,
cause he gave you different access.
well, you still have manager for a while, they changed it back.
You know why I say shut up, Jerry? Anyway, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I wanna add a new grant, 599.
Okay, so you're gonna go to cash, create, add it in.
So, but there is a mass ad function that'll copy all the appropriation expenditure. Yeah, so it's still a function
Well,
now for
if,
your account.
if I log out and log back in?
No,
He's gotta give
I've
it back
changed
to you, cause he changed your back now.
Oh,
Changed it back.
okay.
So, but that does exist, and that can be, it's really, really, really easy. Hit mass ad.
Do you want to give me the permission and I'll log out, log back in, and we'll take a peek at it?
Give me 1 second.
Okay.
So is the, county auditor, the documentation like this, is that under the report?
Right.
Where if you make the adjustments, will it flow through to the, and then you just go in and print that for the auditor?
Yes, and I'll show you, because there's a separate section for auditors, all that, reports and everything.
Imagine that.
It's there, you just gotta know where to look. Once you learn it, honestly, budgetary people will spend most of their time here. Treasurers, you're a little bit more across the board. You want me to log out, Adam? Okay. All right,
I'm having a brain fart.
okay.
So,
All
You
right.
have the match change.
So we covered scenarios and proposed amounts. Again, I will stop you through when it's time. If you want me to, we can do a
Okay.
WebEx,
I couldn't remember.
Whatever.
Okay,
okay?
so actually, you should be good, go to, look at any of those cash accounts, eyeball.
On the cash account,
Yeah, where you're at.
Just eyeball. I don't know if it'll let you do it on the general.
edit.
Add button right there.
Yeah, I can't click it, but if I do edit, no.
No.
See, it won't let you mass add OOO.
No, of course not. Why would it? Okay.
They do a drain or something.
But you did 000.
I did 300.
He's one of the,
Choose one down here.
No, okay.
We don't have a lot of these accounts, so.
I think 21s or something.
Any one of these grants,
Yeah, just try that.
Not yet, man.
mass ad.
There you go,
Yeah, you can't mass add district-wide accounts over again.
And that makes sense.
yeah.
You don't want to mass ad general fund.
So, so let's say we're going into fiscal year 13, you 90-30. That, it's gonna create all those accounts on top of your appropriation, expenditure, revenue accounts. That's super easy to use. I just forgot where the button was, so I had to.
And again, I got that by clicking on the eyeball next to the grant.
I think by default, only the treasurer has that access.
But that's very quick, easy fix.
Yep.
On that same line, we had a grant fund this year that they changed that beginning fund number. I think there was a way for me to copy 599 code into a 584 code.
So that is coming, but it does not exist. There's no fund-to-fund like plastic.
Okay.
I think that's coming sometime next year.
User forms for them.
Mhm.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So, periodic appropriation resolution report to submit to your county auditors. Really easy. Select the fiscal year. Select, do you want beginning balances only, next year's proposed? Do you want fiscal to date appropriations carryover and totals, or fiscal year to date appropriations minus carryover encumbrances? Whichever one you want the report to be. Do you want to include accounts with zero balances? And I believe at this time we say, yeah, we want to include accounts with zero balances, right? Because if not, doesn't it,
No, you don't wanna do that. Include accounts with zero balance.
you don't want to include it, or
No,
you do?
just leave that unchecked.
Leave that unchecked for now? Okay, there was a little bug
When you
with
check
that box.
through, it,
It is in the,
through the
it is
numbers
gonna
off.
be fixed though by the time you.
Well, I don't know if that was affecting this report, I think that was more.
Then you can select how you want this to print out. Okay, so if you need to tweak something on it, then I wouldn't do a PDF. I would do it in Excel, whatever the case may be. And generate. I don't know what this is gonna look like in here because you save it. Because when do you think if I open it, is it gonna open funny or could I have to save it?
Well, you have Notepad, you have to open with Adobe. So click open, click that, choose Adobe.
Adobe. No data, because it's a test account. Of course. Let me see if I do something else. Of course not. I'll have to go out and show you one in, OME-RESA. Let me see if I can. Remind me to get out of here, because this is the live files, not a test account. I don't want to go in and add something to our live files I shouldn't. What this is gonna do. I just wanted to give you guys an example of what the report looks like. Okay, and again, if you need to add or remove something or whatever, I would choose Excel.
So, a quick note on the format on these reports. If you choose Excel, there's two different Excels. There's an Excel and Excel data. If you want to be able to manipulate what's in the cells, use Excel. Regular Excel gives you kind of like a formatted picture.
And here's the Excel data down at the bottom. And sometimes there's so many different features, you might have to click this little arrow.
Well, and that's where the Excel field names is. If you need the field names for tax loads, here you go for that.
If you want to export out something, change it and import it back in, you need to export it out as Excel data.
Click the little drop down. If you want to.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay, next, building profiles, page 33. Again, you probably really won't be in here too much unless for some reason you need to change, an IRN, or this is where you're actually gonna go for your transportation percentage and lunchroom, your building profiles. I know most people don't update those every year, it's probably pretty much you guys just leave it as is. But if you would need to update those percentages, this is where you go. Cash reconciliation, do you guys use the cash reconciliation in the classic system at all? I hated it. This one's nice. I like this one, okay? You might want to use it. You have to use it in June, obviously. But, and I never used it but except for that. But I use it every time now since it's in here because I like it. Okay, and this is just a quick view of what it is. And I like it because, once you type in all your banks, then you can type in any of your adjustments, your investments, that all will stay in there. You can clone, and when you clone, you just then pick the next month. Okay, they're one to pick up lunch bars. So I have January in here. So if I would go back in, start doing February, I hit clone. I select then February. All my bank accounts and everything in there, you just update the totals. So I like it a lot better, and it's not like the one in Classic. And then it'll compare with the fund balance in the Classics, or in the system, to what you've keyed in for the bank statements, to tell you if you balanced or not. I like that one real well. On page 35, certification reports, cert val and amended cert in the Classic system. This is pretty straightforward. Are you gonna do an amended, or are you doing your actual certificate? Detailed or summary report, you're gonna pick the fiscal year. Is there anything you wanna exclude? Hit the plus sign and put what fund function, or fund special cost center you want to exclude. Principal amounts for permanent funds, advances not repaid. Just add in whatever else you need. Again, you can select the format you want the report to come out as. I don't know what this is gonna give me. You know, remind me to go back out.
You didn't change it.
Oh. And now it's gonna spin and spin and spin. See what happens when I become smart like that? Okay. Generate. It didn't give me a chance. I have to do this one in OME-RESA to show you too. Oh, there it is. Send your certificate. I think this is easy, pretty easy. Oh, under periodic.
Got it, Mark.
Civil proceedings. Page 36, this is where you would go if you have any. You would hit create, then you would have to have all that information in regards to proceeding to enter in there. Periodic's kind of things you do periodically. Okay, there's a federal assistance summary and federal assistance details. Because this is put in alphabetical order, detail comes first, but you have to create your summary first. If you try to go to detail first and you don't create the summary, it won't let you. So even though that shows first, you have to go to the summary first. Yep.
Do you, within the class, now that each one of those, do you still have to?
No. But I will tell you this. If you don't have any civil proceedings, when you go to extract the file that you're going to upload to the data collector, it's going to give you a warning. You don't have any civil proceedings. It's not stopping you. It's just reminding you that you didn't go in and add anything. Okay? You can't ignore that warning if you don't have any civil proceedings. But you're going to go into pretty much all the other steps. You still have to go into federal assistance summary. You still have to go into federal assistance detail. You know, still have to do your bank reconciliation, that type of thing. So it will give you that warning on the civil proceedings if you don't have any, but again, you can ignore it if you don't. So on the summary, it's very cut and dry. It's year, assistance over the threshold, and any kind of description, gives your entity name. So make sure you go in there and put that in. Then you can go to the detail. On the federal assistance detail, I will just tell you that for the first year, your CFDA numbers are not going to pull over. Okay, so make sure you have your CFDA numbers from the classic system for the first year. Then, once you have them in here, you can clone them. Okay? Just a little tip. Go into Classic now and get your CFDAs. Run that report, under the report option, get your CFDA numbers. so that you have them for this first time. Five-year forecast. I'm on page 39. This is in here, you do not have to use it if you do not want. I do know one treasurer that is using it. It's, a way to get the information gathered together for your five-year forecast, because it's pulling all the information within the system, all the totals from within the system. If you choose the Excel option and you generate the report, show you what it looks like. Takes a minute, because like I said, it gives you graphs and everything. So it's pretty cool. So I don't, like I said, I know all of you have different companies you work with to do your five-year forecasts and stuff. Not required, but if you like the looks of it, you might want to try it. There we go. Of course not.
Oh, wait, no,
Oh,
because you were doing it as Excel. Can't open Excel with Adobe. Might have to just save this one.
I'm gonna save it. I'm gonna save it,
I
so
don't think Excel will show on that.
I don't think it will either. So, but I wanted them to see, because like I said, I thought it was pretty neat.
We just wanted you to see how long it takes to do twice.
Wait till you need help with something. Okay, I'm gonna save it.
Yeah, save it and then open it.
So here's the instructions for it. They're all right down here at the bottom. Extras, more information, the actual forecast, parameters, data in a little bit more raw format, summary view. Obviously, they don't have any figures in here because this is a test account. Percentage view, and charts. Do that all based on the information in the system. Spending plan, page 40. This is, in the redesign, your SM-12 is now called spending plan. And you're gonna find those reports under reports, okay? Then you'll go to report manager and you'll find your spending plan. But under the periodic, if you choose spending plan, this is where you would go in and actually create your estimates. If you do this, then there's a report that you can compare your estimates with your actuals. This is not required. You do not have to do this spending plan. It's just a way to compare what you estimated versus what's actually happening in your books. Okay? And then 1099 extracts. This is where you're going to go to process your 1099 information. As you know, last year there was the two different types of 1099s. SSDT suggests you check both boxes when you're processing your 1099s, because if you just check one, process it, get sidetracked, don't remember to come back and do the other, some people won't get their 1099. So I would just check both boxes and get it out of the way so you don't forget.
Plus, if we're printing them for you, we need both files.
Right.
To print them. Well, the good thing is we'll give you a reminder, hey, we don't have a file for. Correct.
So that's why I want to just point that out, make sure It's just a safeguard. At that time of the year, you guys are so crazy, it's easy to get pulled away and then forget to go back and do that. It will be in your, we give you, still do our treasurers meeting, we still hand out the checklists, yes, it will be. You want to start on report?
Nope, we're gonna wait till after lunch.
If that matters.
There was no hesitation there.
It's not bad, it's just that it could be a lot of information,
And here's what I think is
depending on how far
Great.
down that rabbit hole you wanna go.
we're throwing so much at you. Now let me throw this on top of it. You know what I mean? I will tell you real quick, your blue sheet, number 4, is your, crosswalk. What it was in Classic and what it's now called in Redesign. That is just a quick tip help because not everything's named the same.
No,
A
definitely not.
lot are, but not everything. So this little blue piece of paper will become your friend.
Eliminate it.
The nice thing is the SSDT has it out there. They
Yes,
have a
it's in
crosswalk
the
out there.
documentation, so if you do misplace it, we can get you another quick copy. Okay?
Like I said, luckily, they've done a really good job with redesign documentation, so
Lunch,
Classic had nothing.
lunch is here, so we'll go ahead and take a break, we'll eat.
Give them a minute just to set up and
Yeah.
get all the lunches out of the box.
Yeah, they're taking everything out now. Did you stop the recording, hon? Okay, would you do that, please?
And we're gonna start,
Name, Ellen.
There you go.
Terry, Patty.
we're gonna start with this fun reports. This will be starting with the report menu. The very first option is report bundles. When you go under there, you'll see, like this particular one has 2 reports by Missy, some from the admin that were just tests, and then SSDT reports. The SSDT reports, you'll see in your instances as well. These are what they have set up to run automatically. And the monthly reports are the ones that will run when you close a month. So I'll click this eyeball just so you can see. Here are the reports that are in that. Fortunately, don't let me edit that. I'll get you a list later of what's all in that. They have quite a few that run at the end of it when you close a month. Report bundles, you can also create your own bundle. And there's another section of this later called Job Scheduler, but we actually recommend this report bundle over Job Scheduler because they both do the same thing. You can schedule jobs to run out of sight, out of mind. The advantage with the bundler is that you can have a bundle of just 1 report, or you could have a bundle of 100 reports. The advantage, once you schedule one, is that you go in here and edit, so this one has 2 reports in it. You can actually edit the reports and change what options that you've queried on for those reports. So if there's something that has a certain code or special cost center or something in there, you can change that if something changes later. Where when you do Job Scheduler, you can't change the details of a report. You have to cancel that job from running and create a new job. When you go to start one of these bundles, you hit create. You can name it anything you want. I can name it Jerry, I can name it, you know, test, whatever you want to call it. Athletic director, you know, secretary, whatever. So it says here, click plus to add this report. So in this drop down above it, you select the report that you want to run. Now, since this is a test instance, we don't have a lot available. In your normal instance, you'll have every report that's in Report Manager available to add to a bundle. And basically, you just pick a report, click the plus sign, and it adds it to the bundle down here. So these are reports currently in the bundle. This is where you can do the edit. So if I want to change the query options, and obviously the query options on this one's grayed out. It depends on the report you choose. Some reports give you a ton of options to specify what you want. Some give you nothing. So it just depends on the individual report that you're choosing. But once you have it in here, you would hit save, and it now saves that bundle. This bundle, I can now do a couple things. There's now a little icon of a clock here. I can schedule that. Once this comes up, so I can choose what's called a cron, and I'll get into that a little bit later when we get to the job scheduler portion. But there's a website out there that's called a cron expression generator, and it gives you things that you would type in this cron expression field based on how often you want it to run. And it could be stuff like every Friday, one Friday a month, the first Friday of the month, the second Tuesday of every month. Like, you can literally customize whenever you want that to run. That's where you would put that, and it just gives you like 0 space 1 space 2 space 5. It's all numbers it generates based on all the data you pick of when you want that to run. So you would literally copy from the website, paste it in here. And again, I'll show you that when we get to the job schedule portion. Event. So event would be like the closing of a month. When you choose event, then you come down here and pick which event you want it to run off of. Some of these, we may have to, he may understand a little more, but some of these we may have to actually go to SSDT to understand what that event means.
There's only like 3 that we actually use.
So like this one, calendar year close. When you close for the calendar year, it would kick off this set of reports for you. As you said, month end, kind of like the SSDT does. You can set reports to run off a month end as well. So if there's things that you know you want to get out to certain people after you close, posting periods, just changing the posting period can kick off a set of reports. So you haven't closed yet, but you've changed the posting period.
You want to complete an event.
Okay. So some of them don't work.
And most of the ones that are in there, but there is one for 1099s when they run. That one's built specifically for the SSDT bundle. Sends all that information over to the archive when you. So a lot of those events are stuff they're using on the back end for the file archive.
So again, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because you could go down a rabbit hole that takes you for hours to figure out exactly what you want, when you want it, who you want it to go to, all of that stuff. When the time comes that you think about that, open a ticket to us. We'll work with you on it. We'll work with you on, okay, what reports do you want? Who do you want them to go to? All that kind of, when do you want them to go? How frequent? How often? You know, when? Just whatever you need. So I just wanted you to know that the option is there to do that. So some of these in here, let me go back to report managers, the next option. This shows you every report that you have in the system that you can run. The SSDT reports are basically canned reports that SSDT has built into every instance for everyone to be able to run. Those reports themselves technically cannot be edited. We can make copies of them though, and then kind of as a base, and then tweak them based on what you want. So if you have something out here, examples right now off the top of my head, but there's people that want, you know, certain accounts to show, or they want it to sort a certain way by employee first, and then by account code, or by account code first, then by employee. All of that stuff could be tweaked. It's a matter of time for us to figure out how to do that. And then if we can't figure it out, again, we can always go to the SSDT and say, hey, we have a district asking for this report. Here's what we have tried, and then they'll help us if there's a way to get that to work, or there may not be a way depending on the system. But Report Manager is all of the reports available to you to run. On this screen, there's a little box that says Favorite. This is what Missy was referring to earlier, when you go to your home screen, on your home screen where you have just your favorites or all of them. So if I check a box here like audit trail, that's one maybe I want to run on a regular basis. Budget history, when I click favorite and I go back to home, those now show here. Those are the two I just checked. That's how you make them show on your home screen, is check the favorite box.
And this works the same way payroll.
Yeah. So I could show all on my home screen, or I can show just those favorites, and then it'll be those two that I just marked. That way, if it's something that you run manually on a regular basis, you can have them on your home screen so you don't have to think about it. They're just right there for you. Again, if it's something you run, though, on a more regular basis, not ad hoc, then we can schedule it for you so you don't have to think about it. I won't go into it too much. There's a custom report creator. This is, I guess not for the faint of heart when it comes to reports. It can get very detailed. You really have to start understanding reports before you play around in here. But the option is there if it's something that you or someone in your district wants to dig into.
It's creating a report from scratch.
Yes.
You totally build the whole entire thing yourself.
You literally build whatever you want it to do. So it is there, the option exists. That's all I want to say for now, because it's, again, you know, it's stuff that we don't even understand some of it, you know, so. Go back to Report Manager here real quick for you. On this screen, there is a button that says Import Report. What I want to mention about this is, if another district has a report, you've talked to somebody and they said, you know, well, for that I run Report ABC, and it works perfect for me, it has exactly what I need, they can share that report with you. They can give you what's called a .json, a JSON file, and you can then import that report into your instance. So when you go to Import Report, I click that button, all it does is bring up a Windows Explorer view. If I have it in Downloads, I go to Downloads, there'll be a .json listed here, I click it, I click Open, and it will open that into your instance. When it goes to do that, it asks you to name the report, so you can name it whatever you want. Once you name it, and once you have it in here, this little window here, normally it's dark, it'll be like a black color if it's a report that you have access to. And you have to click that, and you have to choose who to share it out with. By default, if you import a report, you are the only person that can see that report. Now, as admin, we could see it, but in your district, you would be the only person. So you would click Share, and then it'll give you a list like standard users, I don't know if it gives view only. I think it gives access to all the different roles that are in your district, and you can choose based on that role. You're not choosing the individual people's names in your district, but you're choosing the roles you want to share it with. So until you share it, they won't be able to see it or run it. But that import exists. Along that same lines of being able to import a report from a district. Just like for the help and documentation, there's also something called Help and Report Library. USPS has it, USAS has it. When I click on this, it gives me a link to go out to a public library. In this library is reports that, and I think they mentioned it yesterday, but districts have created it, ITCs maybe have created it. It's different reports that somebody found useful that they want to share. They want to put it up into the public library because they know other people may want this. So check here first if there's something you need. I mean, obviously, if you're talking with somebody in another district, ask them. And they may even tell you, like, yeah, I got it out in the library. When you go out here, it gives you a description so that you kind of understand what the report will do. But the nice thing is it also gives an example. So you can click on example, and then you can see exactly what it looks like. So if I import this report into my instance and I run it, this is what the data will look like when it comes out in a report. You know right up front, yes, that's what I want, or no, that's not what I want. So if you happen to find one out here that you do like, all you do is click on the name of the report, download, and what you're downloading is that JSON file. It's in my downloads folder, I hit save. Now when I go back into my instance, the window goes away. If I go back to Report Manager and click that Import Report button, under Downloads, there's that report. Click Open, name it whatever I want. I can give it a different description if I want. Hit Save, there's that report. And then now there's that Share button. So right now, I'm the only one that could run that if I was in a district. Click this button. Well, I want administrators, I want USAS manager, I want USAS read-only, I want USAS standard, I want the AR people to run it as well. Click those, hit Save. Now when they go back into their instance the next time, under Report Manager, they will have that report showing as an available report that they could run. When you're looking at these buttons, first one is to generate and download the report. So if I click that, that brings up the actual options to run the report. Just like every other window where we try to run a report, you have all the different options to download it as. You have a little button. Sometimes there's more options than what's on the screen. You have your letter, legal, all that. You have landscape and portrait. You can name the report something different here. So for this particular time when I'm running it, maybe I'm querying on something specific. So maybe I want it to be, you know, just all 001s, all the 1100s. So I can maybe put that in the name of it, just so I understand it. It helps me understand what that report is when I look at it. You can do what's called a summary report. So instead of running a report that gives you all of that data that tells me, you know, the dates, the times, the account codes, the totals, the employee names, if I run a summary report, it may only show me just employee name and total, or it leaves the rest out. So sometimes that's an option that you may like as well, depending on the type of report. And then the Show Report Options button is basically showing what you're putting into these fields when you go to run the report. And sometimes we may ask you what your options are if you're having trouble running a report. So if you don't remember, if you show the report options, it's nice because it gives you, hey, this is what I checked, this is what I ran it on. So just, again, know that those options are there. And then query options, again, that's where you put in your details, if there's anything you want specifically it ran against. Sort options, how I want that report to sort out. So this one's going to break it down by fund first, then by object, and it's going to put totals on those because it has control breaks. So it totals up those individual funds and individual objects on the results page. Top, there's it says most recent by default under your save and recall option. If I've played around with this report, something all of a sudden isn't running. The report used to run, I changed some stuff in the query options, now I'm getting an error trying to run the report. Sometimes it's best to click this most recent and go back to default. That runs the report back to the way it was the day that it first ran for you successfully. If I want to save this report as my own, so maybe this is Adam's report and I like it, but I just want to tweak it to where I want it to run on just a certain account the whole time, every time I run it. I can fill in that information, I can put a different name in up here, and then it gives me the option to save that. So now I could save it as my own. So I don't have to necessarily build the report and tweak it behind the scenes. I can just, I like all the options it gives me, I want to run it on the same exact things every single time, so I want that to be called X, Y, and Z instead of ABC, because I'm going to run that every time. So I can give it a report name, and I can hit save it as that report, and then now run that one every time. We went over the report options screen, the different options you have here. The query options on the reports, again, that's where you put in specifics based on, depends on the report that you're going to run. Some have a lot of options, some have none. Then your sort options is how it comes out. Subtotals, your page breaks, your control breaks for totals. And to move these around, you'll get into playing with them eventually, but if you double click on something, or actually you have to drag it, it puts it over here on the right. Unfortunately, you can't slide up and down. So if I want it to break it down by, say, special cost center, I slide that over, it won't let me just slide it to the top. So I have to, unfortunately, pull everything else back over, then put everything else back in. To me, that's kind of a bug. I wish they would fix that so that I could just slide it up and down, put it in place, and run it. Unfortunately, right now, that's what you have to do if you want something at the top, to break it down by a special cost center before fund, or, you know, another option that you want. And then, like everything else, you hit generate report. That report will generate. What I want to mention here is a lot of people get frustrated with the time it takes for some of the reports to run. What you have to remember, in Classic, you ran a report, it created it as a text file. That text file sat in your directory. You then used VCF to, or VC, what was it? VFC to PDF to convert it. This is doing all of that on the fly. When I click generate, it's getting the data, putting it in the right format, and then spitting it out in that format. So if I'm choosing Excel, if I'm choosing Excel field names, if I'm choosing PDF, if I'm choosing CSV, it's doing all of that conversion for me behind the scenes. So it is going to take a little bit longer because it's doing those multiple steps that you used to do manually for you. To me, the beautiful thing is that you have the option, no matter which report you're running, to choose those different formats. In Classic, you didn't have that. Most reports were TXT, and then you had to convert them if you wanted to a PDF. Was there some that came out as Excel?
There are some that came out.
That's what I thought.
If you generated it.
That's what I thought. But it wasn't every report available. So, you know, now you have that ability. And I'm a huge spreadsheet guy, so I love using Excel. So I love having the ability to put those reports in Excel because then I can filter on that data. I can do different things, put formulas in, look up things, do whatever I want with that data in front of me. Where you just didn't have that option before. It was either a text or a PDF and you couldn't do that. So again, the custom report creator on page 49, we're not going to go over that. That's just know that that option exists, that you can get in and create reports from scratch. Page 50, we already touched on it. That's the public report library, but I'll just mention it again. From any screen, no matter where you are, go to Help, go to Public Report Library, click on that. That'll open another page, and that's where you can find, there's quite a bit out here, and more get added all the time. And then again, I do love that you can get reports from other districts as well. If somebody says, hey, I've got one that works perfect for that, you can get that report from them very easily. Import it into your instance, and hopefully it'll give you what you need. I know we went over the reporting part.
Real quick before you move on, Jerry.
Yeah.
In your folder, there's a pink report. And what it is, it's the reports that are going to run when you close for the month, the calendar year, and the fiscal year. Just giving you a list of what will automatically generate for you. I know it's not a big deal, but
No, I'm glad you, because I said I would give you that.
you can have a glance at what's gonna automatically run, so you know you don't have to run those. You can exclude those from a list of whatever other ones you run.
Later, I get into the file archive.
These reports automatically run, where do they?
File archive, Jerry's gonna show you that, probably coming up,
No, it'll be a while.
a few seconds more.
That's after I come back to me.
Okay,
So it'll
You can
be
go
under
real
Utilities
quick.
File Archive.
yep, it's under Utilities, File Archive.
And then you have your monthly reports, fiscal reports, and calendar year reports. So it'll show up in the monthly reports. And when you
close
click
month.
on a month, then it shows you all the reports that are there. So this is all of your monthly CD information.
And you have to actually click on the word the month.
Yes. If you click the eyeball, I don't know why they did it this way, but
You click over here to generate it, but you don't. You click on the actual word.
if you click eyeball, it brings up this little window. You actually have to click on the name of the month, and then it shows you the reports under there. And then if you want to download, there's just a download symbol next to the report that already ran. You just download it, you'll get the PDF, and it'll be like you just ran the report. So again, reports can be listed on your homepage. They're under Report Manager. There's a couple, though, that actually aren't under Report Manager because they're under the report menu itself. So these ones here are the ones that SSDT decided, yes, are more important or more frequent. So they just put them under Report. You just click the report, and they show up right there.
And I forget about them all the time there.
Yeah.
I wish they wouldn't have done it. I wish they'd just thrown it in with all the other reports.
Well,
Because then they go looking, and I'm like, I can't find it.
and what's weird is, okay, it does have it in here, financial detail. So it looks like they are,
So the reports that are in that drop down are canned reports. Changing how they're structured.
I'm just looking, they don't put them in the report manager
No, they do not.
section, so.
They do not let you mess with those. Generally, you see a lot more in payroll, but where those agencies want a very specific file, so they don't want you changing stuff around in there. That's why those canned reports are there for a specific reason.
They could still list them in the list, so I'm not searching for
Well,
them.
yeah, that's my thought.
And the thing is, I don't know if there's a mechanism where they can restrict access in the report,
Oh,
creating them,
Probably
or
not.
modifying. So that's why I think they're on that drop-down version.
Next, we'll do the extracts menu. There's only a few things here. You click on extracts. The first option is EMIS. When you go in here, basically what you do is pick the year and hit Generate Extract File. This creates the file to import to Data Collector at the fiscal year ends. You have to remember to choose the year. And Generate Extract File.
and that contains your civil proceedings, your summary, detail, cash reconciliation, all that.
Next option, extracts gap. This extracts fiscal year activity to upload to WebGap. Basically the same thing, you pick the year, and you hit submit. Generates a file that you would use then to upload into WebGap,
If you use it.
if you use it. Ohio checkbook, I think we only know of one district that uses this.
Anybody, you use it
Do
too?
you? So that is in there.
Pretty simple, just put in your dates. Anything you want to exclude, generate and submit.
If you do the generate and submit, yes. Then the last one is extracts and positive pay. This is a file to the bank of checks you're paying.
Does anybody use positive pay now? Okay. We can set you up in here. This is where we would go to set that file up. So, what's helpful to us, Missy, am I correct, is giving us a copy of what you have in Classic now, right?
Yeah, I asked them yesterday
Okay.
if they would send, if they send us a.
Yeah, we can take that and tweak this to make it look the
Can
same.
you tell us what that is?
When you run budgetary checks, you, then create a file of those checks that you just ran, and in the files, like the check number, the addresses, the name of the person that's
Payee
checked,
number.
the dollar amount, you upload that to the bank. Then when a check comes in from your school district, if it doesn't match that file, they won't cash the check
Versus the bank,
for
you
security,
have it.
for security.
Like, we have Chase, and we sign up for deposit base, we have to upload this account, and when somebody cashes a check, they check that to make sure it's on that list. If not, they'll kick it out and send a, exception notice to us to see if it's fit or not.
It helps prevent fraud.
Yeah.
Cause we use West Banco. I don't know,
Not sure.
I'm just curious, cause we've never heard
Yeah,
of
you
that.
would have to upload, every time you did a check, you would have to upload that file to the bank, because if they don't have that to match, they will not cash that check.
Thank you, I
You
was
could get
curious.
exceptions, and, you know, we had it at my district, where the amount might be more than a certain, is it what you had as your threshold? We had Huntington.
They call that reverse deposit, and I have that on my payroll side, so if there's a check that goes through that say $20,000, it would check with me first before they pay.
Clear it, yeah.
They want me to go and check it. I set it kinda high, just so I don't have to check everything.
Right.
Yeah, but if you're cutting
Right.
payroll checks for 20,000, can I get an application?
The only time you run into that, we always had the problem, someone retired and you were paying out their sick days
Yeah.
and stuff like that, severance pay, that's the only time we usually had a problem.
Usually with me, it's usually a deduction check, like if there's something over a dollar amount, like if we said something for, SDRS or something.
West Banco calls me on large items like that anyways, and we don't touch that up. There's a fraud department or something, and they call just to confirm if she does a large severance pay or something.
Really? We get
They'll
West
call
Banco,
me
they don't call us.
automatically.
But we don't have large checks, there's only 25 employees.
But that, thank you, I didn't know what that was.
I mean, it can't hurt to look into it, I mean, it's this day and age fraud, you know, the fraud that's going on.
So this is where we set up so that when you extract that file, it will be accepted by the bank. That's why we would need like specs. If you've never used it, we would need your bank to give us specs, which will just basically tell us what position it has to have what in it.
Yeah, it's
in
literally
that
like the
file.
account number is 11 spaces, the date is 6 spaces, the
The
name is
30,
27
right.
spaces, like they have specifics for each bank.
Thank you, I didn't realize what that was, so I just wanted to check.
So next would be the system menu. So the first option I'll go over is configuration. The system menu will be rare that any of you have to go in here. Treasurers by default will have access to change the EMIS fiscal year prior to running that extracts EMIS. So I'll show you under configuration here. There's an EMIS SOAP service configuration. And as a treasurer, you will have to go in here, click edit, and put in the year prior to running your extracts EMIS, prior to going back here and running this. Other than that, it's going to be rare that you guys are in here. Do treasurers have the ability to see users by default?
Yes, they do.
Okay. So I'll get there in a second, but under system, there's also a user menu that you can see everybody in your district that has access. And treasurers have access to see that. You don't have access to edit it, but you have access to see it. So those are about the only two reasons you'll ever be in these menus, really. But so the first one was the configuration, EMIS SOAP configuration. Click edit, pick your year, hit save, and then go run your EMIS extracts.
When you say pick a year, is that fiscal year?
That is
I'm sorry, I was looking at something.
the EMIS SOAP configuration. That's fiscal year. It says it there too, fiscal year. The next one is called custom field definitions. Let me go back to another screen to kind of show you what this is and where you may run into them. If I go under core and vendors, if I go to edit one of these vendors, when I scroll down, there's this standard custom fields section. This stuff, oops, down here. These are custom fields that could be edited, they could be named, they could be drop downs, they could be text fields, they could be radio buttons, they could be literally anything you want them to be. Your district has something unique that you track, that's where we would set them up for you. So you could go under System, Custom Field Definitions. You can take a field now that might be, you know, the name says Code 2 and you want to change that to Coaching Certificate. You know, whatever you want to change it to, whatever you want to track in your system, that's how you could track it, is through a custom field. Keep in mind, if you change that and you use that field, it is not something that the system keeps track of. It's something that, like, it keeps it in the system, but you have to manually update those fields. They don't get updated by the system. So if you say yes that this person has a certificate now, next year their certificate has expired, if you don't say yes to that next year, it's still going to say no. The system doesn't prompt you, it doesn't track it necessarily. It's just an open field that you've chosen that you want to track. But know that that option exists if there is something unique that your district wants to keep track of. The next is system roles. So this gets into where we talked about how there's a ton of different permissions that the redesign allows you to have compared to Classic. So by default, USAS Manager, USAS Read Only, USAS Standard, those are things that the system, that SSDT has pre-built. Those are kind of like what was in Classic. You're a manager if you're a treasurer, you're standard if you're a payroll or budgetary person. You know, you might be read only. That's somebody that just needs to look at, say, requisitions or something in the system. Within those, on the right is what's assigned to that role. On the left is all of the different roles available in the system.
That's why we said we can tailor every single one of you to have something more or less than the standard role. There's hundreds.
And we can create and literally pick anything from this list to put in that role. So if a treasurer down the road says, I want my payroll person to do A, B, and C, and my budgetary person to do X, Y, and Z, plus A, like, we can make all of that happen based on that. So there is a spreadsheet out there, I think in our knowledge book, where we have the blank authorization forms, we have spreadsheets that give you all of this. But unfortunately, a lot of it doesn't, there's no explanation. And even the SSDT, I don't think they have an explanation of what the different access levels do.
So if you need to give somebody something, just let us know. We'll help get through all those different ones and tell you what to put on the form.
And unfortunately, just like Classic, on those forms, you have to include their current access as well. And that's unfortunately an auditor thing. They don't want to look at two different forms. So, you know, if you're a standard user now in USAS and she wants to give you mass change as well, well, the new form has to say USAS standard and mass change. If you just put mass change, she would lose the USAS standard access.
They want to pull the most current form. They want to look at one form. They don't want to look back at 4 or 5 of them to add all those together. So that's why everything's got to be listed on the most current form.
When you go under system and users now, those are the let me go users. Those are the individual users in the system. And then when you go to eyeball or edit a user, you can see what they're assigned. Go in here and look at Adam Lewis. If you look at him, he has USAS manager and filters. So it shows you, if I edit it, it's a little darker. So he has USAS manager and filters. So these are the different roles that were on the last screen that we had created for this, or some of them are SSDT created. But that's where you assign the roles. If I want him to now have AR for accounts receivable, I move that over, hit save, and now he'll have that access when he logs in.
So we'll do all this for you if you have to have somebody set up, because again, if there's a lot of roles and you don't want to accidentally grant somebody something that they shouldn't have and then give them the key to the castle.
And you don't have edit access anyway in here, under users, so you can see it, but you can't edit it. One thing I wanted to mention, in here, if you are a district that uses SCView, there will be an SCView username in here, so I think I just saw it. The login and password for strategic in Redesign is exactly the same as it was in Classic. So for those of you that want to look into dual processing or something like that, the user ID and password is exactly the same for them. They know this already, but it's exactly the same. We just have to give you a different URL that they need to start posting things into Redesign for you. ID and password is set up identical to Classic. One thing I wanted to mention on that, in Classic, all SCView needed was a security screen for requisitions. In Redesign, there must be an account created. That also goes with your users. So if you have a teacher that submits requisitions, we at least have to put their name in the system so that their name exists in the system,
Well,
not just security screen.
right, there's no security screen anymore. Design. So if you need to restrict access, we need a folder to them to restrict what accounts they can post to.
They don't have to be able to physically log in to the system, so we won't assign them a password, but their username has to be in the system.
So we have set up in Classic, will that go over into?
Yeah, we can use those accounts for,
But they're not by default, they're not turned on.
yeah, they're enabled. They have a bunch of it.
All
those
our
accounts
teachers.
will load.
Are they active?
Oh, yeah, they're enabled.
Log into the redesign.
No, it's just for through
Right,
SCView.
okay,
Past the
got it.
SCView, we can.
Okay, so they are active by default, so they did come over as active.
They're going to log into SCView though, correct? Is that what you're, yes.
So, but if you're dual posting, that should still work for all your existing. So they shouldn't see any difference whatsoever. Just with new people, we'll still have to set up an account. But we'll double check. Start getting errors,
Well, no.
And we can look in your instance to see if they're active.
because I know we set up a lot of accounts for most of your teachers.
They'll do their own rest.
So anybody going forward, just keep in mind, if they're not in the system already, you have to fill out a user authorization form, but you'll just choose, like, I think it's USAS Rec. Yeah, I don't remember now off the top of my head, but you have to fill that out for them. You can't just go in and set up a security screen
Account
anymore.
coders are already, will be set up at that time, or following a tree.
One second, look and see if this works.
Yeah, I believe they do. Anything in the system, he's gonna double check, but I believe it pulled over. Anything new, you'd have to create, and then through the user, when I go here under a user, there's, where's that
Right
at?
there, allow negative appropriation, allow negative, is that
Oh,
what you're
there's
saying?
filters here.
Yeah, you see them?
You would assign the different filters. And then you have the balance, allow negative approach, allow negative budgets,
So
warrant on
there's
negative
only
amounts.
9 filters.
How many, do you know off the top of your head how many you had set up?
As far as users, we had a lot more.
Yeah, but I
I
mean,
didn't have them all filtered.
I was gonna say, do you know off the top of your head how many filters you have? We can look in the classic system
There's 9 that
tomorrow.
pulled over.
I never really set, I never set everything.
Set count and saw how many, we can look in the classic system how many and see.
But there's a lot false too.
Well,
So, we'll work with you on that to double check.
Okay.
But again, I just wanted to make mention that it's not as simple as just creating an account filter like it was in Classic. You now have to have a login. No password will be assigned, but they actually have to have a user authorization form, and they have to put their ID into the system.
Only if you want to restrict that.
Right, if you want
Parents,
to restrict.
they don't need the account. Anyways, there's some nuance there.
I think that's it right now. I think we're back to you.
Back to me?
Utilities menu.
Okay. Okay. So we're going under the utilities menu, and there's really not a whole lot more, and then we're gonna have you guys try and log in today. As they were talking about the account filters, and I'm on page 61, if you're following along in your book. Account filters is where you would give them access to what codes they can see when they're creating their requisitions. So, I'll click on one of these and show you an example. Let me find here a good one. And here's what those, filters look like. Again, remember, the percentage sign is your wild instead of the asterisk in the redesign. And then you would set up the code. You would create the filter name, for instance, if you wanted to say secretaries or custodians. Say you want the custodians in all your buildings only to see. Name it, put in the code, then all of these options listed over here are to the right are the access, and they are on page 61 too. See, you check mark C if you want create, or just read, update, delete, pre-encumbrance, and encumbrance. Pre-encumbrance is requisition, encumbrance is purchase order. Then you would just save your filter. And then that's how you would set their, so that they can only see the accounts you want them to see when creating requisitions.
So if you set that up in this, does that filter into SCU?
That'll restrict what accounts they can actually see and use.
Yes, but you have to assign it to the user.
Right.
So now that you have the account filter created, back under system users, there's a account filter box that you have to choose that filter if you want to restrict their access. He's gonna show you real quick. System users. Go to edit someone.
Because it's my restriction of.
Oh, but right where it says filters, caves ill. Here, caves. That's where you would pick that filter that she just created. Would edit the user and pick that filter that she just created, then it restricts them to those accounts that she just put in that filter.
I just have basic, on this training account, I just have basic user.
Gotcha.
Because I wanted them to see pretty much what they're gonna see. If I opened it up to everything, then there was gonna be a whole bunch of stuff on there that they wouldn't even see anyway, so. Okay, so there's where you're gonna restrict the accounts that they need to see. On, page 62, we're gonna do account change. And page 62 is just basically listing here, the restrictions, the warnings that you'll receive, so you can kind of go on past that onto page 63. If you're gonna do an account change and the account doesn't exist, Classic, you have to create the account before you change something to a new account. Well, you can do it all from this screen here. So if you need to change to an account that doesn't exist in the system, you can hit new expenditure account or new revenue account. The only thing those two buttons are gonna do is take you to the screen to create the new account. It's not gonna actually do the change. It just was put on this screen, so you wouldn't have to switch to another screen and then switch back to this one to do the account change. So I'm not gonna go over that with you because it's the same as if you would go to core, accounts, create. But it just gave you that ability here so you're not switching back and forth the screen. And that's what page like 63, 64 is. And then on to 65 if you wanted to do the actual account change. You would click create, and then whatever fiscal year you're in, then you're gonna type in the, from account. That, and the to account. that, and you're gonna hit save. So if you had a whole bunch, you could list them all here. Okay, so you got all of them on the list that you wanna do. And then what you wanna do is make sure you're, again, on the right fiscal year here, and check mark the box, apply. Start it. So now what the system is doing, it's going through and changing all those accounts internally for you. And then you want to watch this status bar right here. You can click refresh periodically. They make fun of me because I'll sit there and just click refresh, 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 and they're like, that's not going to make it go faster. But anyway, you want to give the system its time and watch that status button.
And if you're really interested, you can watch it in Job Scheduler. It's going.
Anyway.
Leave it alone for a little bit, it'll do its thing.
On page 66, you want to see, it changed to completed, okay? Once you see that status has changed to completed, then you could go and verify the accounts have changed to the new one. And that's basically all account changes. There it is, completed. Now you know the process is done.
But I will know clicking refresh does nothing.
Shut up, Adam. It's been a long day for all of us, just shut it. Anyway.
See the abuse we take?
Mm-hmm. Every day.
Utilities, auto rec, that's when, get the file from the bank to reconcile your checks, which none of you said you did. We'd need the specs if you would decide you wanted to start doing that. We can talk more if anybody would decide they want that. You will see change password in here under utilities. You're not gonna change your password here. If you go and do it here, it won't work. Remember, you have the Active Directory password, so you have to go to the OME-RESA main page and go under the password center. We talked about that a little bit yesterday, but I can go back to it if anybody wants me to show that again, where the change password is. Like I said, if you do it here, it will not work. You don't want to use the feature in the system. You need to use it through the OME-RESA homepage. Okay, now we're on to file archives, and I know Jerry's talked about that a little bit. Do you want to talk a little bit more about where your reports land after you close for the month, fiscal year, and calendar year? Or did you say pretty much everything you wanted to say?
No, let me reshare.
You can bullshit a little bit.
They're not supposed to know that. Okay. So the utilities file archive, for payroll, most of your stuff besides the W-2s comes over.
Yeah.
As part of your export. The W-2s, I will go back in and manually import them once you go live. On the budgetary side, nothing comes over as part of the export. I will go out there and grab everything for you once you go live. For some reason, the way they have their export batch file work, it doesn't grab that data and package it and bring it over, so we have to do that ourselves. I will get everything for you, but again, I wait till you go live, just in case if you don't go live and run into issues and we have to re-export you, I don't want to grab data now and then have to grab it again later. I wait till once you're live and then I'll grab everything. But utilities file archive, that will be your monthly reports. Again, you can click on a month. You can see all of those reports. You can download it if you need it. This is just like going out to your monthly CD sites. Fiscal year reports. Click on a year. Again, there's more reports. Calendar year reports. Click on the year. And again, more reports. Depends on if they're calendar year, fiscal year end, or monthly reports. As we talked about this morning, if you open a previously closed month and make changes and reclose that month, it will put another set out here. It won't overwrite what's here. Not an issue. Storage is not a concern, but I just want you to know there will be more than one copy of reports out here.
How does it label it? That?
Go to months, Jerry. I wanted to see.
I think
it's got like parentheses.
right here, right here.
Yeah,
So this one puts a 1 in parentheses. So 1 doesn't mean it's the first one, it actually means it's the second one. Because the
What?
original one doesn't have brackets with a number in it.
They have type things,
Yep,
don't they, as
scroll to the
well?
right.
yeah, scroll
You
over.
scroll the bottom, scroll to the right.
Yeah, scroll all the way to the bottom, Jerry. Scroll over to the right.
Oh, over here?
Yeah, there.
Okay.
Okay.
So it'll let you know when it was ran.
So this one was run on 2.3, this one was run on 2.9. So that's the file archive. Again, she gave you the handout 5, I forget what color that was,
Yeah.
but that
Thank you,
pink,
pink.
that had the reports listed in there that generate automatically the different scenarios. If I go under utilities file import, this is nothing you'll ever be in, but this is where I go to import all of that data from Classic. It's a big zipped up file, and then I import it through here. Utilities, mass load. Since we import from Classic, you really won't use this option. But this option allows a district to import cash, expenditure, revenue data into USAS Redesign from an outside source, like Excel, Access, Lotus, other third-party software that has an option to export data in a CSV format.
Somebody wanted to come on Redesign that wasn't originally on the Classic system, that would be how their accounts would get imported.
Or,
When we train.
so the utilities job scheduler, this is the other option to the report bundles. We're on page 72. Job scheduler is if I take one of those reports that I want to run and I want to schedule it. The job scheduler, we personally don't recommend. We would rather you do it in report bundle. Because again, report bundle, I have the option to change who it goes to. I have the option to change the query options on the report. It gives you a little bit of, I guess, more options than job scheduler. Job scheduler, you can now change who it goes to. They just made that update. But you can't change anything about the report that you're running.
Well, job scheduler's a little different. Not just, I think you're referring to,
Correct.
whereas job scheduler, it's gonna show the bundles running.
Correct. So, but this is where if you schedule a job using a cron expression, instead of the report bundle, it will be in here where you go to see that, not under report bundles. And then you don't have the ability to make the edits to that report. Second piece of this screen is what he was just referring to is, when you have those bundles set up, they show up in here as well. This is any job that you have scheduled to run. So you'll see them here, like here's the SSDT monthly reports.
Remember how I said you could go and they would start to filter in as it's running? You can actually go here and watch it, the job process.
And
if
then
you're
over
really
to the
that
right, it
interested.
shows you the status, when they last ran. So if you had something scheduled, bless you, to run at the first Monday of every month, and your secretary says, hey, I didn't receive that report, you can go here and look, well, did it complete successfully? If it did, okay, maybe I need to get with my tech person, did they not receive that email because it completed, so it sent it, or it failed here. So then you would get us involved. Hey, this job failed, why did it fail? We'd help you look into what's going on, why did it fail? So the job scheduler, again, it contains two pieces. It contains anything that any jobs you've scheduled overall, and then if you use a cron expression to schedule a job instead of report bundle, they show up in here as well. Yeah, so this is the one the SSDT links you to. But this expression up here, if you watch when we pick different things below, so I can pick literally down to the second that a job would run, minutes, hours, day. So I want it to be a specific day of the month, so every second of the month. I want it to be every month. Do I want it to be just certain months? Do I want it to be every month between certain months? I want it every month. I want it, just for this year. I want it any year, like just run continuously. But then in the end, based on what I pick, it gives you this expression down here. This expression is what you copy and paste into your job scheduler. So if I go back here to Report Manager, let's say I'm going to run a cash summary. I want to schedule this to run now. So I click this little schedule down here. Pop in that expression. Who do I want it to go to? Name it something different. Maybe I have it tweaked for that person. It gives them specific accounts or whatever it is. I can name it whatever I want, and then I hit save. When I do that, that job will now show up under Job Scheduler.
And that's what he'll help you with if you want to send reports out every month to people. But that's basically how it's done.
But instead of doing that, what I just did, using that cron expression, just by going to a report and clicking that little clock and scheduling it, you can still use a cron expression, but it's better to do it under Report Bundle. When I create the bundle, I pick a report here. When I go to edit that, it gives me the ability
Remember that cron?
Yeah,
Should be right there.
that's what I thought.
Enter query name there.
With that report I chose. Of course. Sure. All right. We'll have to come back to it, but it's in here that you schedule it using that expression. Because it gave us the ability earlier.
Maybe you don't have,
Here it is, schedule report bundle.
I was like, maybe your privilege is on that account.
So here's where you can choose the cron, the event we talked about earlier, or immediate. If I choose cron, that's where I would pop in that expression that we got from the website. Who I want it to go to, and that could be multiple people. Just put in a comma, keep typing email addresses, so you can send it to multiples as well. Doesn't have to go to one person. But again, the nice thing about that is you can schedule it either through a cron expression or it could be event-based. Once you have them scheduled through here, the advantage is, again, I can change those report options, query options, it gives you a lot more than the job scheduler. So when it first came out, they never had bundles. They just had the job scheduler. Bundles came out, I'm going to say a year and a half ago or so. So in here, look at it, edit it. Now they give you the ability to change the email address. That was never there till literally the last update we just got a week or two ago. That's about all you can edit, and then you just delete it if you don't want it anymore. So, but the job scheduler, again, is where you go to see anything that you had scheduled to run, if it ran, when it ran, did it complete, did it fail. And then, Missy, we're back to you.
Back to me, okay. Okay, like I said, we're getting close here, guys, so just hang with me. Utilities, proration utility. Okay, this is your workers' comp in the classic system. But it does things a little differently. At this time, this is just going to generate for you the account code and what percentage or dollar amount you need to put on your purchase order. This does not create the purchase order for you yet at this time. but it is an enhancement and it is coming. So once you do this and have all the dollar amounts in the right account codes, it will then create a purchase order, which will make it very, very nice. At this time, it only creates a spreadsheet to give you the information. I'm going to show you how to do that. Before you start with this, though, this is requiring an account filter. So you have to start with utilities, account filters. And I'm actually going to log into OME-RESA because it runs better in OME-RESA because this is just a test account, so we don't have much information in there. So I'm going to do it in our live files, and you guys have to help me remember as soon as I finish this part, get out so that I don't screw up OME-RESA live file. Yeah, because I will. So before you use the proration utility, you need to go to account filters and set up an account filter. Utilities, account filters. And I have already created one called work comp. Okay, and let you take a peek at it to see how you would want to set that up. Basically, I'm going to run it for all the 100 object codes because workers' comp obviously is based on your salaries of your people. And you only need to give it read access. Okay? So that's very simple to do. You hit create, call it whatever you want, put in the code, and give it read access. That's step one to using this. Then you can go down to the proration utility portion. Now you can use this in two ways. The first way would be is if you know the dollar amount of your workers' comp that you have to pay out. The second way is if you know the percentage of workers' comp. So you're going to either do it by month, calendar year, or fiscal year. Just for this example, say we're going to do calendar year, and we're going to select our workers' comp filter. And you can call it whatever you want, and hit create. What that is doing is pulling all of your account codes that have the 100 object code. And if you know the dollar amount that you want to prorate to each one of these accounts, you just put it in under column B. Hit enter, and then it gives you the account code and the dollar amount you should be taking out for that account code. Again, this doesn't create the purchase order, but it's on the way. So how slick would that be then, just to click create PO, and you have your purchase order for workers' comp done? Okay. The other way would be if you know the percentage. So you're going to click up above there, line B, and you're going to do equals the dollar amount of column C, because this is your calendar. We're doing a calendar year. So the calendar year-to-date total down here would be $845, $494, and 58 cents times the percentage, the workers' comp percentage. And then that will put the dollar amount in each one of the lines. Okay. So once that final part of this comes about, it would be really nice to do for your purchase orders. Okay, I'm going to log out of OME-RESA now. And I'm guessing you could use that for other things other than workers' comp.
I was gonna say, probably, couldn't you use
Idea?
RS surcharge?
There's an SCRS surcharge report
There is.
in Redesign.
I mean, you could use it for,
Yeah. If you just create that count filter with whatever counts you want, then you have to select that filter. And that's all explained in the book there. And then under utilities, show profile, if you go there, that's just giving you the personal information of your actual login there, what your access is. So in this example, I have a treasurer.
and you're in the live file, so, right?
No, I just logged out and went back because I was too paranoid. So that shows me what access I currently have if you go under utilities, user profile. Okay? We talked about the accounts receivable, that none of you are using at this time. And the USPS integration, this is more for ITC, so we can test your connections, things like that, so you would probably never even use that. The last thing in your handout, in your folder, is a month-end balancing checklist provided by the SSDT, what they recommend that you do. You can add to that, obviously, any extras, but at least it's a checklist to kind of go by to start out. Adam, we need to get some computers out so we can practice logging in. If everybody would want to stay, if you absolutely can't, I understand, but if you want to stay, I'd like to have everybody try and log in to your actual district, with your username, password. Again, that will be what you use if you have VPN and you're working from home and you're logging in from home. It will be that username. If you don't know it, I have a cheat sheet here that Tex gave me of what it should be. And if we can't get you in with what it should be, Tech will come over and help us. Okay?